Welcome in to the Week 10 edition of the Giant Overreaction, y'all. This is a major nightmare that we are not going to be able to wake up from in at least a good 8 weeks here, man. The New York Giants fell to the Dallas Cowboys 49-17. I turned that game off a little bit late in the fourth quarter there, and the Giants end up putting up some more points on the board, but this was a complete blowout. We lost this game in extreme, devastating fashion. I mean, I know the New York Giants are out here struggling to field a decent quarterback, but you would expect better play out of the New York Giants. Shout out to everybody that pulled up bright and early, man, and was waiting in the chat for me to pull up. Shout out to everybody that tuned into the Bleacher Report stream yesterday, too, man. Definitely appreciate all y'all support over there, man. Building a whole new fan base over there as well, man. Big shout out to the fam that pulled up and rocked out with me on that one, man. That was a tough stream because the New York Giants now fall to 2-8. We're going to talk about this today. Shout out my homie Momo, man. He put out a really funny tweet, man. He was like, I can't wait to see Awthentik go out here and flame the New York Giants today, man, because that's exactly what this is going to be. This was a pathetic performance by the New York Giants, especially offensively, and the defense really didn't show up too much in this game either, man. So let's get right to it, man. Let's talk about this matchup. The Giants traveled to Jerry World. We'll go over a couple of statistics and a couple of notes from this game, and then we'll get off into about 4 or 5 Giant overreactions. So let's get right to it, y'all.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
All right, y'all. This one was extremely embarrassing, man. So I'm going to go over a couple of nuggets here, man, before we get off into, really talking about these overreactions and where the New York Giants can move, going forward, because this has been a tank-type season, and, it's a hard one for the New York Giants fan base to endure. I got to keep it funky with y'all here. Now, let's go over some of these notes one time. The Dallas Cowboys' 49 points were the most points allowed by the New York Giants since a 51-17 loss to the Los Angeles Rams in 2017. The 48 points is the most in the Brian Daboll era since we had a 28-0 and the 48 points to the Philadelphia Eagles on December 11th last season. So now that's 2 major L's from the New York Giants during the Brian Daboll era. The Cowboys' 640 total yards were the second most ever allowed by the New York Giants, y'all. It's the most since 1943. So, talking about the Super Bowl era here, 640 total yards from the Dallas Cowboys is the most yards that the New York Giants have allowed by any team since the merger. Dallas Cowboys' 472 net passing yards was the third highest total allowed by the New York Giants in Giants history. The Cowboys had 32 first downs, tied for the third highest of any Giants opponent in the history of the franchise. The Giants were down 28-0 at the half. It was their largest deficit since the divisional game versus the Eagles, which was also 28-0 at the half as well. Largest halftime deficit in the regular season game since 2010. That was 31-0 to the Minnesota Vikings. We did end up winning the Super Bowl the following year, so maybe that's something good for the New York Giants. I don't think this team's headed for no Super Bowl next year. Definitely a lot of questions at the quarterback position, which we're going to get into. The Giants were 0 for 12 on third down. What's crazy is we had a game like this in the 2021 season where we ended up beating the Dallas Cowboys, where we did not convert a third down in that entire game. Dak Prescott did not play in that game. I believe it was Andy Dalton. That was the last game of the season. I remember Daniel Jones did get to start in that game. Third straight year that Dallas has swept us. It's the Giants have lost now 7 straight games in Jerry World. You can't forget that they're on a big winning streak over there in Dallas, too, at home as well. The Giants defense did not record a single sack for the second game in a row and the 5th time in the last 10 games. So the Giants defense has been very hot, very cold. And when they've been hot, I mean, they've been a really good defense. You look at the 3 weeks previous to what we saw against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, and the New York Giants defense was playing pretty good football. But I think that's very dependent on the Giants putting a competent offense out there. With Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, you saw the defense kind of rally around how the offense was playing. Not the case the last couple of weeks here. The Giants have allowed the most sacks in the league, the worst point differential in the NFL. Got to talk about some of these injuries in this game. Andrew Thomas went down with a knee injury. To me, it looked like an ankle at first. Kind of got rolled up there from a defender leaning on him in the back of the pile there. He ends up coming off the field, comes back on the field for a few plays and whatnot, and then he didn't end up finishing the game, so we got to monitor that injury situation moving forward. Kayvon Thibodeau was out with the concussion. Deonte Banks didn't play some of that second half as well. Cordero Flott didn't come out in the second half. The Cowboys beat the Giants in week 1 40-0, and I thought that, it could not get no worse than that. And, yeah, the New York Giants offense put up a couple of more points and whatnot in this game, but it was a lot of garbage time points. Just losing 40-0, that being the largest deficit. And then you see the Dallas Cowboys come out here again and put up 28 before the half is over. 54 points in 2 combined halves. The Giants were down 54-0 when you just count the first halves of these 2 games versus the Dallas Cowboys. Really just not a good performance across the board. It was also the Cowboys' biggest shutout victory when they beat us 40-0 in the first week. The Cowboys have now won 6 straight and 13 of the last 14 matchups against the New York Giants. Now, a lot of us in the community, a lot of content creators as well, thought that the New York Giants were kind of closing the gap a little bit within the division with teams like the Dallas Cowboys, like the Philadelphia Eagles, who we haven't got a chance to play this year. I was kind of trolling them a little bit. Shout out to homie Laura Brunson one time. I was trolling him a little bit in one of his tweets, and a lot of his fan base was coming at me. I'm just trolling just a little bit. I don't think they really got the jokes and whatnot. But we do got to face the Philadelphia Eagles 2 more times this season, and I'm not looking forward towards those games because if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, how they have destroyed us in these 2 matchups, I can only imagine what it's going to look like going up against this Philadelphia Eagles team who looks like they're destined for another Super Bowl appearance. Mike McCarthy has now tied Mike Holmgren for 18th on the coaching victories list at 161. The Cowboys have now won 12 straight games at home. The Giants and the Cowboys have played 124 times, and this was a franchise record for the amount of yards that the Cowboys put up against the New York Giants. So you could call us fortunate or you could call us extremely, just unfortunate to be able to be here through this kind of a loss. Like 124 times the New York Giants have played the Dallas Cowboys, and never in any of those losses had the Cowboys put up this many yards against us. Really just terrible. Outscored the New York Giants 89-17 in 2 games. The New York offense has not scored a first quarter touchdown all year long. I don't care who's playing quarterback, whether it's been Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito, or your boy Awthentik. No one can score a first-half touchdown when it comes to this New York Giants offense. I saw this from Bobby just a little bit earlier when I was watching the Talking Giants breakdown of this game. Saquon had 7 carries for 1 yard in the first half, and then he had 16 attempts for 65 yards in the second half. Like, it just seems, and I tweeted this out, and we talked about this on the last Giant Overreaction. It's like this team does not want to die on Saquon Barkley. It's all we got right now offensively. You got to find a way to be able to get the ball in your best player's hands. And in this game versus Dallas Cowboys, it just seemed like Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka are just avoiding it. And I don't know if they're part of the tank situation that's happening here, because a lot of times a tank has nothing to do with the players that are on the field. A tank has a lot to do with what the coaching staff is doing, how they're coaching games, and how the front office is, delivering their promise on the players that they're rostering. And then when you look at the quarterback situation with Tommy DeVito at quarterback and you got Matt Barkley on the practice squad, it eerily reminds you of 2021. But the thing is, in 2021, I don't feel like Joe Judge was trying to tank because he knew his job was on the line. In this situation, I really can't call it, to be honest. I don't know how much of this is the doing of Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka just saying, hey, we need to lose many games so we can go out here and get our quarterback, or if that has anything to do with Joe Shane. I don't think a respectable franchise would approach it like that. But when you neglect your running back the way that the New York Giants have done, I have to question it. I just have to question it, right? And now we're going to be going into this draft. As of today, the New York Giants have the 2nd pick in this draft coming up in 2024. That would definitely get you your, pick of the cream of the crop right now of quarterbacks being Drake May and Caleb Williams. We got to find ourselves into a franchise quarterback. A lot of people thought we had that entering this year. And even there were times there last year when we beat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, especially, even my opinions kind of wavered. I was thinking like, hey, maybe the New York Giants do have their guy. And I think this year kind of proved that we don't have our guy on this roster. I did a stream on Bleacher Report last week breaking down the quarterback situation with the New York Giants and the type of prospects that we might want to target, coming into this draft. And I think I'm going to go in and redo that stream as well here with y'all on the Awthentik and the Beard channel. So look for a random stream coming up this week. We're going to be doing today's Giant Overreaction. Shout out to the gang in the building. Tomorrow we'll be doing the whole NFC East recap as well. Let me turn this up a little bit. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be doing that with the Beard here as well, breaking down their loss, man. That was a tough loss for them against the Seattle Seahawks, and talking about this game a little bit more in depth. And then Wednesday, I'll be back on Bleacher Report here on Thursday for the preview show. At some point or another, maybe even tonight, I might do that stream I did over about the quarterback prospects. But this game, let's get back to this game a little bit. I want to go up here and highlight to y'all Dak Prescott stats because, man, this dude is playing some MVP-like football the last 3 weeks. I kind of called for this to happen. I did not know that Dak Prescott was going to put up 404 yards on us, but I did know that Dak Prescott was going to have a big game against a young defense. Yeah, Wink Martindale has been doing his best. I think of all the coaches on the roster, Wink Martindale has been doing his best to kind of galvanize this defensive unit. But when the offense is playing as bad as they are, you start the day where the defense got 2 stops to start the day. They had the big 4th down stop on a turnover on downs, and then they forced the Dallas Cowboys to a 3-and-out. But then the New York Giants go out there on their first 2 drives, and they go 3-and-out on both drives. That's not really helping your defense out. And we knew that this game had to be kept to a low-scoring type of fashion for the Giants to have any type of chance. Brian Daboll ended up going for it on that 4th and 2 early on, gave a real vanilla type of handoff to Saquon Barkley. Not the play that I wanted to see if you were going to go for it. I wanted to see the New York Giants just kick the field goal there, take the points, would have been down 7-3, and maybe you can kind of coach that game a little bit differently before it gets out of hand. I'm not too mad at the fans out there who wanted to go for it on 4th down, but I think the play call, everybody in that stadium knew that they were going to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley, especially the way the last couple of weeks have gone. Brian Daboll kind of just seems to can't get on the right side of 4th down. It's like when we want him to be aggressive, he's not being aggressive. He's going to the field goals, and then you got Graham Gano missing 2 field goals in that last game. And then Brian Daboll comes out in the press conference. He says, hey, everything is okay with Graham Gano. And a day later, Graham Gano is on IR. So it really doesn't make any sense. But this was the 10th career game with 400 or more yards for Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has now won 12 straight games versus the New York Giants. CeeDee Lamb was definitely a big part of that. We're going to get off into CeeDee Lamb stats as well. Dak has 3 straight games now with at least 3 passing touchdowns. And y'all know me. Over here, I've talked about this statistic a ton. Daniel Jones, I know he didn't play in this game, but Daniel Jones has 39 straight regular season games where he does not have back-to-back games with multiple passing touchdowns. And here you go. You got Dak Prescott with 3 straight games with at least 3 passing touchdowns. He's got 4 in 2 of those 3 games. I think we know what kind of caliber quarterback Dak Prescott is, especially losing some of his weapons in Amari Cooper. They lost Cedric Wilson. They lost, who's the kid that they lost? Noah Brown to the Houston Texans, who had a fantastic day with C.J. Stroud. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. He's had back-to-back performances over there with the Texans where he's definitely balling out. 5 straight games for Dak Prescott with the passer rating over 100. Now, let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. Brought up CeeDee Lamb on the Parlay Show on Sunday morning and on our preview show on Thursday. CeeDee Lamb was pushing for history here, trying to be the first wide receiver to have over 10 receptions and over 150 yards receiving in 3 straight games. He did just that. In this game, CeeDee Lamb had 11 receptions for 151 yards. They were very conscious of the record being on the line there because this game was out of reach. They took Dak Prescott out of the game. They brought in the backup quarterback. What's my man name? Got his face right there. I can't remember his name. But y'all know the backup quarterback, Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, who's had a little bit of success with the Dallas Cowboys. And they made sure to get CeeDee Lamb the extra receptions and the extra yards needed for him to break this record. CeeDee Lamb now has 7 games with at least 10 receptions and 100 yards receiving. It's the second most since 2022. I think that might be right behind either A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown's the guy, or possibly Tyreek Hill could be the other one. And Lamb breaks history against the New York Giants. So what's new here? Also, Brandon Cooks had a hell of a game. I had the Beard actually drop Brandon Cooks in our fantasy league, and I scooped him up like 3 weeks ago, and I've been waiting for a big game like this. But Brandon Cooks was on my bench with like 33 points. Definitely disheartening, especially after last week I had C.J. Stroud on my bench with 52 points. It seems like I might crawl my way to a victory this week. But 6 Cowboys scored a touchdown in this game too. So Dak Prescott was spreading the ball around. CeeDee Lamb also scored on another touchdown where they gave him a jet sweep, and he scored on that as well. The Cowboys outgained the Giants by 526 yards. And I think that number might be a little off because the broadcast reported that number before the game was over, and the Cowboys did end up getting some more yards as well. Largest yardage differential since 1962. This game was just completely pathetic from the New York Giants offensively. There was one point where I looked up, and the Dallas Cowboys had more yards. I'm sorry, they had more points than the New York Giants had yards, and we were in the 3rd quarter. That is just unacceptable. And we thought that 2021 season with Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon was pathetic. This looking a little bit worse than that. I'm willing to give Brian Dable a little bit of a longer leash, obviously, with the way that he performed last year, Coach of the Year, first playoff win for the New York Giants since 2011, first playoff appearance since 2016. So they were headed in the right direction. A lot of us expected a little bit of a regression, but not like this. Definitely not like this. I don't know if y'all ever seen The Matrix. I'm sure you have. But when they were when Cypher was pretty much unplugging all the people that were in the Matrix, when he took that deal from the agents, you know, the one girl who was a part of the Nebuchadnezzar, she was on the ship. When she knew that her plug was about to get pulled, she looked over at Trinity and said, "Not like this." And that's exactly how I feel about this New York Giants team. This is the first game in Giants history in which two opposing receivers each had over 150 yards. So CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, all going off. Dak Prescott, a passer rating of 138.3, 4 touchdowns. He did have the one blemish with the interception to Cordero Flott. It's good to see some of our young pieces panning out a little bit, you know, defensively and making some plays out there. And I like what I saw from Flott before he was knocked out of this game. But nonetheless, man, this was just a awful, awful outing. I definitely want to go to the chat today, man, talk to y'all about this. I just wanted to get through that opening intro. Big shout out to all of y'all for pulling up, rocking out with me on this Monday afternoon. It's unfortunate it couldn't be a Victory Monday. Y'all know how it is. The New York Giants are definitely in tank mode. I'm not even reeled in, man. Like, I'm just watching these games. I'm pretty numb. And the only time that I really wasn't numb was during that Washington Commanders game. That was about it, man. Outside of that, it's been pretty terrible. Shout out to the homie one time talking Eco for the $4.99 super chat. He said, I'm gonna be the biggest Cardinals, Bears, Patriots, and Panthers fan for the rest of the season. I'm now embracing the tank. Mac Jones, go and be the guy with the devil emoji. I'm right there with you talking Eco. Appreciate you supporting the channel, bro. Like, look, I'm one that, like, throughout my whole entire fandom as a New York Giants fan, I've never rooted for a tank. And I think that we're kind of pinned in a corner. There's nothing else we can do, y'all. We got to embrace this. It is what it is. We are not going to make the playoffs. We're already sitting here at 8 losses. I had the New York Giants at 9 losses at the end of the year, starting off 2-6 at that. I thought that they were going to be able to rally. I looked at the schedule, and I figured you would have 2 extra losses at the end of the year to the Philadelphia Eagles. You had a good stretch here where you could have beat teams like the Raiders. You could beat teams like the Saints, the Patriots, the Packers, you know, possibly the Rams late in the season. It's really not looking like that, y'all. It's definitely not looking like that. But big shout out to Talking Eco, man. I definitely appreciate you. Talking Eco been supporting the channel a ton over these last streams. And during a time, you know, when the New York Giants are playing such awful football, to have y'all here and, you know, be able to rock out with me on these streams and support me on these streams. That's major, man. I definitely appreciate that. Before we get off into these overreactions, I do want to turn to the chat. I want to see what y'all are talking about here about this game because, man, this is just a tough one. I see shout out to the homie Gregory, saluting the homie Kai in the building. Big win for y'all Cowboys, man. That was major right there. I'm sure y'all are feeling really good about that W after taking an L to the Philadelphia Eagles in a game where I thought y'all kind of outplayed the Philadelphia Eagles. But, you know, to bounce back like this and get a get-right type of game, you know, against an inferior opponent in the New York Giants is really great. Nova Nebula says tank, and he's got the celebration emoji. I'm right there with you. Shout out Marjorie one time, always dropping those bombs in the building. She says, I can't wait until the day we can beat Cowboys and the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a start, you know, like just being able to compete within the division is going to be amazing. And we're just not there yet. You know, last year I feel like we fielded a better team to be able to compete against, you know, the upper echelon teams, not only in the division, but in the conference. And, you know, being able to beat teams like the Packers and beating teams in the AFC like the Ravens last year, that was huge for us. And you know, this year just regressing. It's unfortunate for all of us as fans, man. You know, this is definitely not what we wanted to see. And I don't think anybody could have anticipated this one going the way it's going. Shout out my homie, the brother L, one time representing those Dallas Cowboys in the building. I got to give you one of those one time, man. Grand opening, grand closing. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely what that was. 2 big L's to the Dallas Cowboys. And when you talk about bragging rights within the division, it's so unfortunate for Giants fans to be able to have to endure this. And, you know, go through these type of losses, man, these blowout type of losses, you know, and it's wild. Like Tommy DeVito in that offense scored more points against the Dallas Cowboys than Daniel Jones and the healthiest we've seen the New York Giants all year long. Kind of crazy. I know a lot of it came in garbage time when the Cowboys did pull a lot of their starters off the field, but nonetheless, just an embarrassing way to lose to the Dallas Cowboys twice. Let me see. Kai001 says, I need a favor, Awthentik. Please beat the Commanders next Sunday. I want their spirits broken before that Thanksgiving game. We're going to try and do our best. I don't know how possible that is with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. You know, with Tyrod Taylor for sure. But I think our defense does match up really well against the Commanders. Me and the Beard are going to be at that game. That should be a good one. I'm going to just go up to that stadium at FedEx Field and try to have a good time. Not expecting no W's, but, you know, for the sake of my homie Kai 001, I hope the Giants can pull off a victory, but that's going to kind of ruin a little bit of our tank vibes, man. So I don't know, Kai. I don't know what I'm rooting for here, man. I'm somewhere in the middle of this, but best of luck for you, man. I'm not out there playing on the field, so I can't do too much but just go out there and just watch football. We'll see how it goes, man. But big shout out to Kai one time. Let me see. The homie Zach G is in the building. What's going on, Zach? Hope all is well, fam. He says, once Tyrod Taylor went down in the Jets game, Dable changed his coaching. Yeah, you definitely noticed that. It seemed like Brian Dable was going for the wins during that Jets game. And even still, you know, there were a bunch of coaching blunders in that game from Brian Dable. A lot of time mismanagement, play calls at the end of games and whatnot. You know, just not looking like that sharp Brian Dable that won the Coach of the Year last year. So unfortunate, but yeah, I do agree with you on this for sure. Shout out Darius Smith is in the building one time. Let me just scroll back. Adam Costas is in the building. He says Dak is balling. That's definitely a fact. Shout out Adam, man. Y'all go give him a subscribe over there one time. Darius says that the Giants are so bad that they don't need to tank. We're just that bad. Yeah, I feel that could be a giant overreaction right there. I feel you on that, man. That's definitely the case here. Gregory says that Dak threw for 4 touchdowns and ran 4 touchdowns. Yeah, it was a great game by Dak Prescott. And, you know, when I did my top 10 video early on this season, a lot of people was giving me, you know, a bunch of pushback on it. Like, why isn't Daniel Jones in the top 10? Why do you have a quarterback like Dak Prescott, who is religiously known for, you know, folding in bright, big spotlight type of games? And I don't think that's really the case. When you look at the playoffs, Dak Prescott's, you know, 3 losses that he's had, at least two of them came to the San Francisco 49ers. He had one performance that really wasn't on him. You know, when it came down to that last play against the San Francisco 49ers 2 years ago, I believe that was, when Dak Prescott tried to get the run and couldn't get down in time. When you look at the way that the Jets ended up beating the New York Giants, I think that Dallas needs to learn something from that game, because all you have to do is allow the referee to just touch the ball, and then you can just snap the ball. The Cowboys actually waited for the referee to spot the ball, and you would think that, I think they ran that play with about 14 seconds left. You would think you could be able to get back up and be able to run another play, and end up losing the game in tough fashion, although that game was getting a little bit out of reach there, and the Cowboys, I believe, were down by like 8 at that point or something. You know, definitely your last attempt at trying to win the game. But a lot of it's not on Dak Prescott completely. I won't say that. Like, Dak Prescott goes out here, he plays decent games. I think he had 1 turnover in that game, but nothing too crazy. So I think people got to pump the brakes. Dak Prescott is in a different tier of quarterbacking than what the New York Giants are working with here. Let me see what's going on. Joby, a new name in the building. What's going on, Joby? Hope all is well, fam. Joby says, I didn't watch the second half. I'm not going to let these games get to me the rest of the year. Better times coming. I've been clocked out, Joby. Like, yeah, I don't let this team, like, ruin my week. I always say this, too. Like, just having bad Giants football is better than having no Giants football, because when it's the offseason and I ain't got nothing to talk about, it's not as good as, like, even just getting to watch the New York Giants play some tough games, but it is what it is at this point. Don't get too reeled in. Don't let this team ruin your week to week. You got to wait till the next Sunday to be able to try to feel good about yourself and your football team, and then you go out there and they put up a terrible performance again. So I encourage fans, man, don't allow this team to ruin your week, straight up and down. Let me see. Kai 001 says, did you see Dak's pregame fit? He was dressed like Morpheus. I didn't get a chance to see his pregame fit. I'm sure he was swagging out there, man. He's playing confident football right now. Adam Costa says, how embarrassing is the challenge flag in the beginning of the game? Extremely embarrassing, and Brian Dable said in the this is the thing I noticed about Brian Dable in the presser after the game. He's clocked out too. You could see his emotions were involved last week, the week before that, and all the weeks that led up to that. His emotions were involved. When he got to the podium, you see an angry Brian Dable, kind of agitated with the questions that the beat reporters are asking him. In this one, he was just smiling and just going through the progressions. 3 minutes into the presser, he was like, we good? And he was ready to go. It's kind of showing me that Brian Dable is clocked out as well, which I'm not really mad at him for doing, because at this point, your team is pathetic. The injuries have derailed this entire New York Giants season, and he has not been great this year either. I'm not going to sit here and put all the blame on the players. I'm not going to sit up here and put all the blame on the coaches. Like, this whole organization, from the front office all the way down to the towel boy, they all got their part. They've all played their part in this season being terrible, and you look at the beef that happened between the wide receivers coach and Darius Slayton, some people trying to point the finger at Darius Slayton. For me, I'm looking at it like, look, Darius Slayton just wants to win. I'll never be mad at a player for showing their emotions on the sidelines when things are not going their way, and they're not allowed to be able to put their best foot forward on the field because they're just not a part of being implemented within the offense. And that's exactly what it seems like with Darius Slayton. You know, on the broadcast, it looked like him and Sterling Shepard were beefing, but I think Sterling Shepard was just trying to calm him down and understood his frustrations. Brother L reminded me about the 640 yards of offense. Yeah, it was definitely pretty bad, man.
Spike don't care.
I got to throw you one of those. Brother L out here giving me a hard time, man. Definitely, man. But yeah, it was just a tough game to watch. You know, like you don't want to see. It's okay to watch your team lose. You don't want to watch your team lose like that. Not like this. Shout out to homie Big Dog Status one time in the building, man. Appreciate you pulling up. I did see another super chat from the homie. Shout out to Brian Rogowski. Brian been rocking with us the last couple of weeks too, man. Big shout out to Brian, man. Appreciate you pulling up. Appreciate you donating to the channel, man. A $5 super chat definitely goes a long way. The only time you can win without converting a third down is when you only get first downs, of which they had none. Pretty sad state for the New York Giants. That's a fact, man. Yeah, like, yo, when you go 0 for 12 on third down, your offense looking this pathetic. There was a point there, man, where Tommy DeVito was 4 for 7 for 26 yards. I'm looking around like, dog, are you kidding me, man? Like, we got to be able to move the ball. I don't care who's out there playing. That part I put on the coaching staff. Like, you got to find a way to be able to move the ball. And if you can't find a way, just run the ball 3 times with Saquon Barkley and then punt the ball, man. Like, don't go out here trying to be all crazy and run like these weird passing schemes and stuff. And then when you see your quarterback throw the ball down the field and get an interception to Jalen Hyatt, you kind of stare at him like it's his fault. I mean, he's just out there trying to make a play, trying to win games, man. So I don't fault Tommy DeVito, a rookie, undrafted free agent, going out here, hometown kid. A lot of people wanted to see him play. You're getting to see him play. I did not want to see a rookie like that get thrown to the wolves. And Brian Dable did commit to Tommy DeVito for next week. And before this, they committed to Tommy DeVito for pretty much the rest of the season. If that's the case, I think they're just embracing the tank straight up and down. Shout out to homie Keith Wilson Jr. one time in the building for the $4.99 super chat. Keith Wilson says, I keep getting told turn it off, but can't because I love this team. It's so demoralizing having to watch good ball from other teams other than yours all the time. Yeah, man, you know, and I'm watching the Texans game, right, at the during the 1 o'clock window. And I'm just seeing C.J. Stroud just wheeling and dealing that whole entire game, right? And then it comes down to the wire where he makes one rookie mistake during that game, and he ends up throwing an interception right when they're trying to not really run the clock out because they did need to get a first down, but he ends up throwing that damn near a pick six. And, you know, I'm looking at C.J. Stroud just flourishing with the Houston Texans, and I'm jealous. I'm really envious of it because they don't have that great of a wide receiver core. I think their wide receiver core is better than ours. But when you add Darren Waller to the mix, you could kind of an equal playing field between their wide receiver core and ours. They got Tank Dell over there as a rookie looking really good. They got Noah Brown looking good. They got Nico Collins, who didn't play this past week, has opened up the door for Noah Brown to be able to have some big games. But, like, that's nothing crazy. Like, we should be able to put up half of what they're doing. And I called this in the summer. I said, like, yo, when I saw C.J. Stroud at the Combine and then when I saw him in minicamp, he looked like an NFL quarterback to me. He looked the most ready. I thought Anthony Richardson looked ready as well, too. Like, when you saw them at the Combine, I don't know if y'all got to see this, but you can just search my name on Twitter and search C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. I posted all their throws from the Combine. And they would go, you know, they had a rotation, and a lot of the times they would have Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud go throwing the type of route concepts back to back. And I'm just looking at these two kids like, man, those guys look like NFL quarterbacks to me. And they came out here, and yeah, Anthony Richardson ended up getting hurt, had to learn the hard way that you're going to have to slide in this league and protect yourself. But they both look like NFL type of talent. And the fact that the New York Giants, when their starting quarterback went down, I'm not even going to make this about Daniel Jones, this portion of it, right? Your starting quarterback goes down. And if you're going to go out there and you're going to try to win games with Tyrod Taylor, and you know that your starting quarterback's, you know, status as far as being healthy is it's a question mark there. It's indefinite, right? Why not go out there and go get you another quarterback right away, especially knowing the type of player that Tyrod Taylor is? We've seen it last season. It seemed like every time Tyrod Taylor got hit, he got injured. So why wouldn't you go address the backup quarterback situation at that point when your starter is down and bring in a guy? It could have been Matt Barkley at the time. Instead, you see Tommy DeVito in practice week in and week out. You know the things that he is capable of and incapable of. And still you decide to roll the dice with him as your backup quarterback, knowing that Tyrod Taylor has an injury issue. To me, that was negligence on the coaching staff. It's tough to watch this. It's really tough to watch this. And I got to blame Joe Schoen a little bit. I got to blame Brian Dable a little bit. Like, both of these guys got to be held accountable. Now, I'm seeing people on social media being like, yeah, the coaching staff is acting like they have no accountability. I don't know if that's quite the case yet, but I wish I could be in these front offices and be a fly on the wall, definitely, because it's puzzling right now. I don't understand the approach. I don't understand the approach of even signing Daniel Jones in the offseason, but then let alone when he gets hurt and it's another neck injury. You dealt with the neck injury in 2021, and when you declined his fifth-year option, I'm sure it had a lot to do with that. Daniel Jones coming back off a neck injury. But now you don't go address the third-string quarterback position when Daniel Jones' health is just in question. I just don't understand it. The approach is just not – it makes no sense. It screams low IQ, which I know that Joe Schoen is not a low IQ type of GM. But shout out to Keith Wilson. I definitely appreciate that, fam. And we got Frank Corona Jr. in the building. Big shout out to Frank Corona for that $5 super chat one time. He says, what's your stance on if they aren't picking in the top two and can't trade up? Are you team next best quarterback, team Marvin Harrison Jr., or team trade down? It's a really good question. So for me right now, the New York Giants have the number 2 pick. Let's say they don't have that pick, and let's say they're picking like 5 or 6. If you think Michael Penix Jr. is that guy, and you got to gauge what's going on around the league, you're going to know if other teams are going to be targeting a quarterback as well, and if they're going to be trying to go after a guy like Michael Penix, possibly another guy like J.J. McCarthy. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. Cameron Ward's another guy that comes to mind. Jaden Daniels is another guy that comes to mind. There's just a bunch of quarterbacks out here. Bo Nix, you can pick your poison. You could probably find a good quarterback in the second round. I will allow that to be to the discretion of the New York Giants. We saw the Philadelphia Eagles go out there. They gave Carson Wentz a big contract. And right after they gave him the big contract, they went out there and they drafted Jalen Hurts the following year in the second round. And that worked out well. But Howie Roseman knew he had his guy. Joe Schoen's got to know he has his guy. I'm kind of with both of these. Like, for me, if you don't get a top 2 pick, I would love for you to try to find your way to trade up to get your top 2 pick, to be able to bank on getting one of these top 2 quarterbacks in Drake May and Caleb Williams. If you can't, I don't know how much I would be cool with getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and a quarterback in the second round. But I think what would ensure getting that other quarterback, trade up, try to get an early first round pick. Kind of like how the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson, getting a pick like, 25 and after, and also keeping your top 5 pick or whatever that may be at that point. You can maybe get Marvin Harrison Jr. because you do also need an alpha wide receiver 1. You really need that. Whether you're going to get that in the draft or whether you're going to get that, in free agency, possibly in a year, because I think the timing is not aligning proper here. Like, you got Daniel Jones. You cannot cut him next year. Dead cap hit of over $60 million if you cut him. So regardless of what goes down, Daniel Jones is going to be on this roster. Maybe he starts the year on the PUP list possibly, and you're going to have to address having a backup or a bridge quarterback situation along with the rookie that you draft. I think the later you wait to draft your quarterback, the more that quarterback cannot come in and be a day 1 starter. My preference is go get a quarterback in the top 2. That's my preference, straight up. If you can't trade up, it's going to be tough, man. But I appreciate the super chat, Frank Corona, and that's a hell of a question. I kind of want to propose that to the chat as well and see how y'all feeling with that in the chat, and see how the family's kind of feeling about that as well. Let me just scroll down and catch back up. Let me see. Yup, I got that one. Man, the chat is booming. Big shout out to all of y'all spending y'all Monday afternoon with me here on the Giant Overreaction, man. Definitely means a lot. Yo, we're going to be going here for at least an hour here. I definitely want to get the temperature of the chat, see how y'all been feeling about this whole Giants tanking situation and whatnot, and just see, gauge how the fan base is really feeling about these losses. Are there people out there that are still invested in Daniel Jones as the quarterback coming back in 2024? Are there people who are against the tank? Because I know a lot of people don't like tanking. Tanking is not a good situation. It's the worst type of way to address your team, being a bottom tier team. And I think right now the New York Giants are definitely one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they got to find a way to improve this. How long it's going to take, we really don't know, but we got to sit here and be patient again. We've been here for 5 seasons. Man, look, 2016 gave us a little bit of hope. And then by 2017, we saw the worst rostered New York Giants team. We come back, hire our new coach. Pat Shurmur comes in, things don't work out. You get Joe Judge, things don't work out. And a lot of us thought Joe Judge was going to be the guy. and that didn't work out. 6-win season, regressed the next year. I think it was 3 wins or 4 wins the following year. It has not been good. Now we're looking at over a decade for the New York Giants where our fan base has been struggling. Y'all, I'm getting no younger here. I'm 40 years old. Look, the way I like to tell people is when you're 40 years old, you got about a good 25 good summers left. The New York Giants got to find a way to get right. Benny says that tanking. Shout out, Benny, man. Tough loss for your Commanders, bro. Sam Howell, man, out there battling. But like I told you, that 1 turnover a game is going to hurt him. And he had the 1 turnover in this game. Tanking is a bad word. It really is a bad word. I don't know what else to call it, Benny. I really don't know what else to call it. Like, this is a bad football team that the New York Giants are out here fielding. It's a bad football team. Like, we can't be out here rooting for a bunch of W's. Like, we can't, root for a salvage season to be getting to 6 wins. 6 wins is not going to matter. Right now, I want that top draft pick. I ain't gonna lie. And that's normally not my swag, man. I normally will at least give y'all a little bit of hope. But we'll see, man. Darius says, I don't believe Awthentik is 40. He looks like he's 30 to me. Yeah, I'm 40, bro. Trust and believe I'm 40. 1983. I was in the 5th grade in 1993. I played JV football in 1997. I ended high school in 2001. I'm 40, bro. Ain't no way around it. My brother's 5 years older than me. He's a Cowboys fan. He hasn't even gave me a text today. I'm very surprised. But no way around it. Shout out to, who was it that said that right before? Alvaro Orion. He said 40, midlife crisis already. I'm not really having, I feel like I'm in my second childhood. I was telling I had my first session in the studio because I just moved. Had my first session in the studio on Saturday morning. And I was telling my client, like, man, we were breaking down classic albums. And I told him, I said, man, you know what a classic album is that a lot of people don't talk about is Stillmatic by Nas. And we got to talk about the records that were on there. And, Got Yourself a Gun, You're the Man, Rewind, One Mic. What other joints? You had Ether on there, bro. You had What Goes Around Comes Around. It's such a classic album that a lot of people overlook. But Second Childhood was another record on that album that I really dug, produced by DJ Premier. And that's where I kind of feel like I'm at. Like, I almost feel like I'm getting like this second opportunity in a different niche. And I'm just living my second childhood here, man. Like, I get to come up here and talk football with y'all all day. And then outside of that, produce records and make beats and do all these things that, like, I've been doing since I was a kid. It's awesome, man. So I'm definitely not having a midlife crisis yet. Haven't bought the, when you're 40 and you're having that midlife crisis, you buy the red Corvette or like the yellow Corvette. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe when I feel like my age bracket, everybody seems a little bit younger. Like 40 is like the new 30 in a way. It's kind of weird. Like, so I think maybe when I hit 50, I'll really hit that midlife crisis. You'll see me with the top down in like a, Monte Carlo or something like that. Or there was another drop top that I used to really like. Oh, the T-top IROX, man. Catch me in one of those or something. But yeah, not quite yet. Big shout out to Alvaro Ryan, though, in the chat. I see Bruce Williams is in the chat. He says 60% of this team shouldn't be in the NFL. Get a quarterback and build from there. We need elite talent, man. Big shout out to Bruce Williams. That's a damn fact right there. Let me see. Frederic says, I only got 20 good summers left. Yo, we be going back and forth on Twitter about OGs. He's like, yo, you're not an OG yet, Awthentik. I think we both OGs. Frederic might be a triple OG. He's kind of pushing that triple OG, man. But we look to guys like you for that wisdom. Big shout out to, I don't know if I'm saying if it's Frederic or Frederic. I can't remember. We're going to call you FS for today. But big shout out to the fam one time. Real People is in the building. He says we need to fix the offensive line. Maybe we just need to fix the offensive philosophy, offensive approach, but I definitely think he's talking about the line here. The offense in general needs an overhaul. You got, like, look, man, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Darren Waller even. These guys are not a part of the real future. I think Darren Waller could be a part of the immediate future. Isaiah Hodgins, you're not really part of the future. Let's keep it real here. Paris Campbell. That's like 4 out of your 6, starting, not even starting, your rostered wide receivers right there. You could look at Saquon Barkley. The timing is not lining up quite right. Matt Breida is not really a part of this future. Mark Lewinsky, not a part of this future. Ben Bredesen, not a part of this future. Yeah, you need an offensive overhaul. Quarterback, Daniel Jones, I don't think he's part of this future. You just need a complete overhaul of the offense. I'm right there with you, though, Real People. Big shout out to you for coming and pulling up here with us on this Monday afternoon, bro. Appreciate you. Yeah, the line needs to get fixed. Yeah, I feel you. I definitely feel you. Adam coming up on 40. Man, Adam, I thought you was a lot younger, bro. I thought you was in your late 20s. Keep it real with you. Let me see. Alfredo Andres is in the building. Big shout out to Alfredo in the building. He says, do you think Brian Dable and Joe Shane are on the hot seat or too soon? I'd say it's too soon. Brian Dable and Joe Shane, they definitely overachieved in the first year, but you can't pull away what they did. You cannot remove, the success that they had in 2022. Colin Cowherd said this during that year. A lot of people gave him, a bunch of shit for it. I agree with him. He said the way that they got to the playoffs, won a playoff game, that ensures them an extra year. So if you thought it was 2 years, I don't think anybody thought Brian Dable and Joe Shane would be out of here after 1 year. So let's say you think it's 2 years, you got to give them 3 years, I think. That's my thinking on it. Rozelle the Great says, shout out to the 80s babies. Yes, sir. You know what it is, man. Let me see what else we got up in here, man. We're gonna go over a couple of these comments for a little while, and then I'm going to get y'all to the Giant overreactions as well. For those of y'all that are new here, we present statements on the screen. All of these statements today are going to be coming off of X or Twitter. I still call it Twitter, man. I'm not calling that app no X. I still call it tweets. I'm not calling it post. I still call it retweets, all that stuff. But we bring up statements on the screen from those two, from that platform. And then if you agree with the statement on the screen, you can put a U that represents you're taking it under, meaning you agree with the statement. If you think the statement on the screen is an overreaction, you can put an O in the chat. If you need some more time, you can take a push and you can put a P in the chat. So we're going to get to those. But shout out to all of y'all, man. I definitely appreciate all of y'all spending y'all Monday afternoon with me, rocking out, talking about this Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys slaughterhouse game that we saw here, man. It was definitely not a good look, but we got to talk about it. That's what it is. That's how we get through it. We got to look back at our past to try to figure out where we going here, man. Let's see. Roman's in the building. Shout out Roman. Roman be engaging a lot on Twitter, man. Big shout out to Roman. I like Roman. He's a really good dude. Engages with a lot of the content creators on Twitter and in the community. I appreciate that. He says, I became a fan in 2017 and I haven't experienced shit with this team. That's tough, man. 2017 was a tough year, and we went into 2017 with great aspirations, bringing in Brandon Marshall to pair with Odell Beckham. I was extremely hyped that year. You had a young Sterling Shepard on that squad, man. Eli Manning still, we thought he had a little bit of gas in the tank. All these wide receivers end up getting hurt. So for you, I mean, really all you've seen since 2017 is last season being the best work that you've seen from the New York Giants. That's unfortunate, man. You know what you got to do, man? Go back, start looking at some old tape from some of them great seasons. Look at 1986, 1987, look at the early 90s and study those games, man. It's awesome because on YouTube, you can go back. They got all those games listed. Go back, look at the 2007, 2011 seasons, man, and just study the greatness that was New York Giants football back then. And, then when we get to some good winning, you'll understand the trenches that we went through. Rozelle the Great said Brandon Marshall. I know that one hurt, man. Brandon Marshall had never been to a playoff game, and I thought he was going to get to his first playoff game during that year. Shout out to homie one time, man. El Jefe's in the building, man. Yo, Jefe, man, if you want to pull up and talk for like a good 15 minutes, I definitely welcome you, bro. I'll send you the invite link. If you want to pull up, bro, pull up, man. I'm going to send it to you right now on Twitter, man. I think a lot of people need to get hip to y'all content. I like what y'all are doing over there on New York Revival. I was like, damn, why this joint don't want to give me a new tab? Let me send that over to Jefe real quick. But yeah, if you want to join, Jefe, I'm going to send you the link right now. You can pull up, bro. We could chat it up for a little bit. I kind of want to get your thoughts on this game. Shout out to Alvaro Orion. He says, and Skip Baylor's bashing the Giants on Twitter to make it even worse. I know. And I saw Skip was talking about, like, he was a little bit worried coming into this game. And then, extremely confident, after the fact and whatnot. Hey, but big victory, man. You got to, take your victory laps when you can. Dallas Cowboys were coming off a tough loss there to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm not mad at it, man. When you win games like that, go ahead and do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Get your dubs. Get your dubs out the way and celebrate. I think that's important. And if it was us on, on the winning side of this one, I would be doing the exact same thing. I would definitely be doing the exact same thing. And I would call my brother up and be like, yo, bro, we just beat the brakes off y'all. But instead, we got to deal with this 49-17 loss from the New York Giants. Cowboys got to clean. I'll tell you what, for my Cowboys fans out there, y'all got to clean up them penalties. Y'all heard the Beard talking about it on our show. I know the Beard struggles to give y'all some flowers. But, yeah, y'all got to clean up those penalties. I think y'all had 9 penalties in this game as well. So that's back-to-back weeks where y'all pushing over 9 penalties. You cannot keep doing that. Shout out Ant McQueen. I see you in the building, fan. That's my guy, yo. He says 126 viewers, 40 likes. Smash that like button to show appreciation for this work. That's cool. As long as y'all here in the building rocking out with me, y'all know the saying over here at Awthentik and the Beard. This comes from one of my homies. I worked on a couple albums with him, Chaz French. Y'all in it for likes, but we in it for life, man. Like, the likes are cool. I definitely appreciate y'all bringing some attention to that. But, hey, if y'all just here rocking out, that's cool, man. Chill back. It's going to be a good, slow burner episode. And we're going to talk about this, the rest of the approach for this New York Giants season. So big shout out to Am McQueen. Good dude, man, on Twitter, man. Has a realistic view on this team. He's a huge, probably the biggest Daniel Jones supporter in the community, but he's one of those people that does not just walk around with the rose-colored goggles, man. He's like very rational, very even keel, and unbiased, man. So big shout out to Am McQueen. Appreciate you pulling up, man. Let me see. Corey Pate back in the building. What's going on, Corey? Said, all I looked for in last night's game is if DeVito could just look a little better from first quarter to fourth quarter. Yeah, because I think this is an evaluation process of Tommy DeVito. And, questioning if he could possibly be at least a backup option moving forward. But it's not looking like that. I think the biggest problem with Tommy DeVito is when he senses pressure, especially up the middle on that offensive line, his eyes go completely down and he just completely folds. And, that's not a way to play quarterback in this league. You got to play quarterback in this league decisive and be fearless. And Tommy DeVito just doesn't have that yet. Still a lot of room to grow. I mean, he's a young quarterback. He's got a lot of football left in him, I think. I don't know how much of that we'll see with the New York Giants next year, but he's got a good audition, man. He's going to get a couple of games here at least until Tyrod Taylor comes off of IR or until the New York Giants pull the plug and go with Matt Barkley as the quarterback. But shout out to Corey Pate, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up. Chance Chambers is in the building, too. He's got the brackets going towards 2011 Eli Manning. Yes, that was a great year, man. Eli put this team on his back with one of the worst offensive lines. A terrible running game as well. We were 32nd in the league that year, averaging only 88 rushing yards per game. Had two quality running backs, don't get me wrong, and they did show up in the playoffs. And defensively, they weren't that great of a team, but when it counted in the playoffs, that front, man, they showed up in a major way. And this team just started clicking, and they got hot at the right time. You look at the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they struggled a lot too, as throughout the season. They had 2 losses to the New Orleans Saints during that year. A lot of people did not look at them as a true Super Bowl contender when the playoffs started, but they got hot at the right time, started winning some big games, man, and then, the rest is history. But yeah, 2011 Eli Manning, whew, great times. Really great times, man. Let me see. Uzumaki. Yeah, Uzumaki. I think I said that right. Been a fan since 07. I've been spoiled. I think we have a chance to turn it around. I do think we have a chance to turn around. The big question is, how long is that going to take, right? Because we've seen this now. 2 GMs came in here. They said, hey, we're going to try to compete while rebuilding. And that's not been the case. Outside of 2022, the Giants really don't have any seasons over 6 wins, I believe it is, through the Dave Gettleman and the Joe Shane tenure. So it's been bad. Fans have been being patient here. This is 6, 7, 8 seasons now in a row outside of 2022 where this team just has not been good. So I'm going to remain patient, but at the same time, I know for the rest of the fam, especially the folks in the chat, the patience is running thin, man. It's really running thin, and we want results. We definitely want results. Being a fan since 07 is definitely spoils us a little bit. I've been a fan since about, I'd say 1989, maybe. I think I've been a fan since sometime around there, the Stephen Baker days. Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler, Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Pepper Johnson, all these guys. I remember them. They were, all elite dogs for the New York Giants. And we, kind of went through a lull there of Super Bowls after the 90s. And to get those 2 Super Bowls in 2007 and 2011 was fantastic, man. Like, I felt spoiled during that time. I remember going into the 2011 Super Bowl being like, yo, we're playing with house money. I don't care if we lose. The Patriots were a juggernaut team. Again, it wasn't quite the undefeated Patriots, but I thought the odds were against us. I was like, it's no way the New York Giants are going to go out here and win 2 Super Bowls against the GOAT, Tom Brady. And, the rest is history. Ended up beating Tom Brady again, Mario Manningham on the sidelines. And yeah, we got to celebrate. It was amazing. Those were amazing times. I hope that we can get back to those times. And I hope that we're not cursed for, reaping the benefits of having 2 major victories like that within 5 seasons. But yeah, this is a good time to be a fan was 2007 for sure. Let me see where we at with it. Just scrolling down a little bit more here. Let's see. Chance Chambers said the 2010 season was heartbreaking. Most definitely was. Yeah, and 2008 was heartbreaking as well when Plaxico Burress shot himself and whatnot. Tough times, man. The New York Giants could have probably won 3 Super Bowls within that 5-year tenure, but definitely was not the case after Burress shot himself. I thought we were one of the best teams in the league that year. Let me see. Martin Lomax comes in with the question here. I like this. And y'all can bring in the questions, man, as much as y'all want. If y'all want to talk about something, definitely pull up. And Jefe says he's on the way now, so he'll definitely get to bless us with his presence one time. Y'all can load up some questions for Jefe as well, man. Definitely want to see his stance on it. We'll talk for about a good, we'll keep Jefe here for all the overreactions, man. We'll do that. I've been wanting to get Jefe on the channel for a long time. and it's going to be cool to have him here. So we'll keep him for the overreactions, and as long as he wants to stay here, we'll chop it up with El Jefe. El Jefe's with the New York Revival team, man. They've been doing a really good thing. Him, Eli Rax, and the homie Mr. Glass, half full, which we know he likes to think like that, the homie Spiros, man. Big shout out to all of them. Good dudes, man. They actually featured me. They were one of the first people to feature me on a podcast way back when we first started the Awthentik and the Beard channel. I think that was in 2019 or 2020 when they featured me on their channel. At the time, I think they was with New York Giants Rush. And since then, they've started their own channel and whatnot. So big salute to them. Let me see. Monique is in the building. What's going on, Mo? Hope all is well. We're going to see Monique on Sunday at the Giants game versus the Commanders. She says, I don't agree with bashing, just like I don't agree with this win is meaningless. It's a division and a conference win. Yes, it's super important, man. Stacking up these division wins is so important. Like, these are going to matter down the stretch. And then also for y'all trying to get to that number 1 seed. Y'all are, 2 games back from the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I think that these games are very important. These divisional wins are definitely important for y'all. Big shout out to Monique pulling up. Let me see. Rozelle the Great says, Awthentik might not care, but I do. Pay the plug. I like that, man. Salute to y'all, man. I appreciate all y'all repping for Awthentik and the Beard, man. That definitely means a lot to all of us. John's in the building, man. Big supporter of the channel as well. He says, I don't care if we don't win. I want to see some fight from the team. I'm not seeing anything from this squad. I'm just happy my New York Rangers are winning, keeping me sane. Yeah, man. I'm not a hockey fan or a Rangers fan. But yeah, I'm in struggle mode because all my chips are invested in the New York Giants. That's really the only team in any sports that I root for is the New York Giants. And to see us in this position is just extremely tough for me, man. Like, and I got to cover it. I'm with the Bleacher Report streams, y'all. I'm now doing the Monday overreactions, the Tuesday recaps, Wednesdays on Bleacher Report, Thursday we're doing the preview shows. Friday I take a break, and Saturday I take a break, which I'm going to start using Friday and Saturday to cook up some pre-recorded content for y'all as well. And then Sundays we do the parlay early, 11 a.m. And then by the evening when the games are over, I'm doing a recap on Bleacher Report, and then right back to Monday on the Giant overreaction. So it's tough, man. Like when our team is winning, the positive vibes around the whole entire New York Giants community completely raise up. And when we're losing, it just gets extremely negative, man. Like some of these Bleacher Report streams that I'm doing, people are so just in their feelings about what's going on with the team that when I come to the table with an honest take, they don't want to hear that either. So it's like there's fighting within the community, content creators going at each other. And I think that's just like low-level type of behavior. But at the same time, I'm not going to stoop to that level. I try to kind of reason and rationale with some of these people and just see where they're coming from with it, because I want to know what makes them so frustrated outside of the New York Giants being so pitiful. But, as far as John been rocking with us, I want to say for at least 2 seasons now, at least. And this is unfortunate, but at least you get to see them Rangers, go out there and get some W's, man, for sure. That's definitely a good thing on y'all end. Let me see what else we got up here. I'm just scrolling, man. And like, if I missed some of your comments that you said, feel free to spam the chat, man. Don't even trip. I'm just scrolling through and just trying to find some good topics to talk about before we get off into some of these Giant overreactions. I do want to hear what El Jefe has to say about his thoughts moving forward with this team and, with how he felt about the loss on Sunday to the Dallas Cowboys as well. Let me see what else we got. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets says, what time is the Bleacher Report show on Wednesday? Those are normally between 2 and 3 o'clock. That's when they like to do those. A couple of them were right at 3, and then last week they kind of bumped us up to 2:30, so we'll get to that. I see El Jefe just pulled up, too. Let me see. Darius Smith just popped up. He said, Awthentik, what do you think happens with Kafka at the end of the season? Man, that's a really good question. It's one of 2 things, y'all. Either Kafka remains a Giant and he continues to call plays for the Giants into the 2024 season. I would like to see Mike Kafka with his own quarterback. I really would like to see that. But I think Brian Daboll, the seat getting a little bit hot, that might force him to fire Mike Kafka in the offseason. I don't think he'll get fired midseason. And then, we all know that Brian Daboll is capable of calling plays. He can take over that offensive coordinator job, which I think might have been the right move in the first place. I'm not too sure why him and Joe Shane wanted to go out there and get an offensive coordinator. You got an offensive-minded coach. You could have just, rocked with Brian Daboll. But maybe they saw something allowing Brian Daboll to, be hands-on with the offense, but also kind of like oversee the rest of the entire team. Bill Belichick ended up saying this, too, when Brian Daboll got hired. He said that Brian Daboll is one of the guys that he is 100% confident in leading an offense and leading a defense. So we know Brian Dable's capable of doing it all, but Bill Belichick these days not looking like the greatest sponsor the way that the New England Patriots have been playing as of late. So let me just scroll down. Let me see, and we'll get Jefe up here. I do see him backstage one time. Benny says, how do the Giants blow up the team without getting rid of Dable? It looks like Dable and his coaching staff and scouting staff are not it. I feel you on that, because the draft picks have not really hit so well. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, Micah McFadden, Kayvon Thibodeau looking pretty decent so far, but a lot of these other draft picks have definitely stalled out and failed thus far. I don't think you blow it up and get rid of Dable just yet. Like I said, I think he's afforded his time to be able to, get another year here and get his quarterback. I think Brian Dable's got 2 more seasons. Maybe that's a hot take. Y'all let me know. I think he's got 2 more seasons. I think Brian Dable will get to year 4. And in the middle of year 4, once he's with his quarterback for a year and then possibly a year and a half, I think they'll consider, putting him on a true hot seat and maybe trying to fire him. But I think if he drafts the rookie quarterback, it'll afford him a little bit more time to get right. Because if he continues to go with Daniel Jones at this pace, I don't think that yields well for Brian Dable's leash as far as the Giants head coach. But shout out to Benny, man. That's a good one. All right, let me scroll here, just catching up. And I'll get to these super chats before we bring Jefe on real quick, just so we can get that out the way as well. Let me see. We got, which one was the first one? Right here. Shout out to Talking Eco one time in the building, man. He says, I think Giants were super interested in Hendon Hooker as a developmental pick next year. I think Mara wanted DJ to get paid, but Shane wanted Hendon Hooker in case. I mean, that would have been amazing. And Hooker, I believe, got drafted in the 3rd round, so he was hanging around there. A lot of people did project him to be either a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback. So if they really wanted to go out there and get him, then they should have went out there and done that. It's unfortunate, too, because Hooker's going to be behind Jared Goff, who's playing really good football. I don't see Jared Goff going nowhere for at least 2 more seasons, so Hooker's probably not even going to get a chance to see the field. Maybe he's a guy that you go out there and you trade for, but I don't know if that's going to work for the New York Giants. Would have been a great move in last year's draft. Definitely not going to pan out, I don't think. I don't think you can really trade any value for a player who hasn't, hit the field yet, and you really don't know what you're going to get. Entered the 2023 season with some injuries, too, looming. I think it was a knee injury for Hooker as well, so would have been a great pickup in hindsight, but I don't think that's a move that the Giants can make now. I do think Mara had his hand in the pot for damn sure with what went down with the Daniel Jones contract. That's for sure. But shout out to Talking Eco, man. Talking Eco been supporting us big time over here. Let me see. Let's go to this next one real quick. This one comes from Chris with the $4.99 super chat. Appreciate that, fam. He says, I am sick of Giants firing coaches every 2 years. If they fire Dable, Dable won't be able to land good coach future. So I hope give Dable at least 3 years as a coach. If they fire Dable, they won't be able to land a good coach in the future is what I think he's trying to say there. So I hope they give Dable at least 3 years. I'm 100% behind that thinking, Chris. You got to give Dable at least a 3rd season here. He had a great first year. Brian Dable could have went like 6-11 in that first season, and no one would have batted an eye. He ended up winning 9 games, 10 if you include the playoffs, and definitely overachieved. But that's a good thing when you're looking at your head coach. 1 great year, 1 awful year. We really didn't want this year to be this awful. You got to give him at least another year to kind of split the difference. Like I said before this, I think you give Brian Dable at least going into his 4th season. We'll see how that goes, though. Shout out to Chris, though, for supporting the channel. I don't know if I've ever seen Chris here. I'm not sure which Chris this is, man, but big shout out to Chris one time in the building. Shout out to Zach G one time for the $5 super chat. He says, if the Giants get a top 10 pick in the draft, will Mara allow Shane to draft a quarterback, or will he force another year of DJ? I don't think you can force another year of DJ. I think that experiment's kind of over here, and let's say Mara did have his hand in the pot with the contract. It's just more reason for Joe Shane to be like, look, man, we did it your way. It's not working. Can we please do this my way? I think it would be awesome. You remember how John Mara came out? Let me take a sip real quick. You remember how John Mara came out, right? And he endorsed all the moves of how the New York Giants have been operating. And he said, look, the GMs do what they're going to do. I sign off on what happens as like the last, line of defense of how these contracts get done and all that stuff. He has to sign off on all of it. I would like for Mara to come out and clarify what happened with the Daniel Jones contract. The fact that he has not came out and clarified that, I think that there's a little bit of smoke there. Like, if you gave the keys to Joe Shane to really handle all of this on his own, well, why don't you just kind of relinquish all that pressure that the fan base is putting towards you and saying, listen, Joe Shane made all the decisions on the quarterback. I signed off on it. That would clear up a lot of the, everything that's being misconstrued in the New York Giants fan base. But if the Giants get a top 10 draft pick, you got to hope that Mara's out the way. Got to go out here and get your quarterback, man. I think that's very important. There are other positions that need to be addressed, obviously, but quarterback is the most important position. And when we get to some of these overreactions, I can't wait to talk about these with Jefe, because I want to talk about leadership on one of these. We're going to get there. But shout out to Zach G, man. Zach G, all of y'all throwing in these super chats. Y'all have been great supporters of this channel. I definitely appreciate all of y'all pulling up and rocking out with us on this edition of the Giant Overreaction, the Week 10 edition. All right, y'all. Let's get right to it, man. This brother is this brother is the funniest New York Giants content creator out there, man. Big shout out to my guy. Y'all welcome him in the chat with biceps, man. This dude is me and Jefe been rocking out for 3 seasons pretty much. And I think me and Jefe really see the game very, very similar, man. So big shout out to Jefe. Y'all, please welcome him with a bunch of biceps in the chat for this dude, man. He been putting his foot into this content, building the New York Revival channel from the ground up. I love what they do over there. They kind of have been shifting a little bit towards my narrative of this quarterback is not the guy, and they've been catching flack for it. I remember I pulled up there and I dropped a bomb on them one time with that Daniel Jones consecutive games without having multiple passing touchdowns statistic. And Eli Rax was completely floored. But without further ado, man, let me bring in my brother right here, man. And El Jefe is in the building. What's going on, fam?
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me. And you did drop that bomb that day. You sent our whole show in a whirlwind, bro. That was nuts, but it had to be said. And it's just numbers. All you did was spit the facts, and we reacted to it. And we did get a lot of shit for changing our mind, but I'd rather be honest with ourselves instead of just stick to a narrative just for the sake of sticking to it.
Totally.
Like, as more information becomes available, you should be changing your mind. And that's basically what happened with us. And, Mr. Glass Half Full, he always keeps it positive. He tried till the very end to support Daniel Jones as much as he possibly could. And even though that's why I like our show is that we welcome different opinions. I don't even always agree with them, but those are my guys, and we have fun. We try to have fun as much as possible. I appreciate that intro. That was a nice intro you gave me there. It's hard to be funny in these streets sometimes, but
Facts.
I do my best.
We got a cold fan base, bro.
I know. It's hard. There are weeks where, like, the game's over, I'm like, I don't want to fucking be funny. I don't want to think about making a sketch. I usually need Monday just to, like, get over the game before I even think about trying to be creative or put something together. But I mean, I'm not really upset by these games anymore. I know what it is now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Kind of just dialed out of these games and whatnot. Just watching them, it's good to have some football on Sundays and whatnot. And in conjunction with the other games is cool. But I'm right there with you. I clocked out a bit. And, it's just going through the motions now. Just really going through the motions. But kind of want to get your assessment on, everything that's happened, through this year so far, quarterback included. Start from week 1, I guess. You don't got to go week by week. But, like, just give me your assessment on the season, how you entered the season, your expectations, and where those expectations fell flat. And then we'll kind of round that off with how you feel about the performance on Sunday versus Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I have no problem admitting when I was wrong or had a bad take. I think it's just as fun, celebrating your bad takes. I think sometimes people take themselves too serious or whatever. But, like, I was high on the Giants coming into this year. I thought Daniel Jones showed enough where, he obviously needed to take that next leap. And I thought it was conceivable that he would, but it didn't happen. And I wasn't afraid to admit that I was wrong about it. And they came out flat as hell, just absolutely embarrassed in week 1. And you just didn't see enough from DJ. He didn't take the leap. And the things that I wanted to see, because we always go back to it. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he's tough. Yeah. He's all those things. I don't think that's really ever in question. But it's the stuff that separates the really, really great quarterbacks is either elite playmaking ability, which he hasn't shown, or being so smart at the line of scrimmage where what the defense is showing you, where you want to go. You're looking at the reads that you got. You're moving people around, calling audibles, and we didn't see that either. So if you don't have a good line, which obviously we haven't, then he's limited, and the ceiling is completely cut off, and then you're left with kind of the product that we had, which is just complete underperformance across the board. But I think, at least for me, it's clear what direction the Giants need to go at this point, and it's trending that way. I think more and more people are coming on board with it at this point.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. You got a couple, stragglers kind of still hanging on by a thread still. Like, it's just the offensive line. You fix the offensive line, and we're going to fix all the problems. And I think that's not a really good way to approach, how to build an explosive and exciting type of offense. I know we lack the playmakers, and we do lack some players up front on that offensive line. But what I've been saying throughout this whole entire year pretty much, and I did come in with high expectations like you did. I kind of thought the New York Giants were going to be an 8-win team. That was my thoughts. I thought they would start off 2-5, 2-6-ish, maybe, one win, one loss less or whatever. But I thought that this team was going to regress on the record column, but you would see a team that progressed as far as what you're seeing on the field, the product on the field, in the locker room, more explosive offense. You brought in Darren Waller, Wan'Dale Robinson coming back healthy. I thought these guys were going to be able to stretch the field with Jalen Hyatt, and Daniel Jones came out kind of flat, kind of afraid to take those deep shots. Saw a little bit of it from Tyrod Taylor. Still couldn't get W's in those games and whatnot. You did beat the Commanders, but we've been able to beat the Commanders pretty much every time we've played them since Jones has got
whatever reason. Yep.
Yeah. And now, we're looking at this Cowboys performance where it's taking us back to 2021 a bit here. It's like we just want to see a product on the field that is at least presentable, right? It's like the New York Giants are coming to school with a science project here, and it's a volcano, and it's exploding all over the whole damn classroom. It's like, this is not presentable football here. When you get beat by the Dallas Cowboys in two halves, 54-0, that's not showing me anything as far as what we know as New York Giants football. So where do you think we need to go moving forward? You obviously addressed the quarterback position, but what else do you think this team needs to do? Are there building blocks? Because I think there are some building blocks on the defensive side of the ball. What are your thoughts on that as far as how you go about rebuilding this team?
Yeah, definitely you got more pieces on the defensive side. I like our linebacking crew coming together too. Okereke, McFadden. I think those dudes have been dogs this year. I think they're great. And you have younger guys in the secondary. Obviously, Adoree Jackson's time is coming to an end. McKinney, I think he's almost, either through body language or the way he's talking, it doesn't seem like he wants to be here. I highly doubt they bring out the checkbook for him. I could see him.
Right.
I could see them moving on from him. And obviously defensive line, those are where your studs are. If this team has any studs, I love Thibodeau and I love Dex. So you got pieces there. On offense, I mean, Andrew Thomas, JMS, end of list. I mean, how other
end of list?
I mean, Wan'Dale's showing some things, obviously,
yeah.
But the offense just isn't functional. So you're not seeing enough opportunities. But he has looked quick. He's looked dangerous at times. But this isn't a functional offense. Nobody's getting enough looks. Slayton breaking character and just flipping out on the sidelines yesterday. So my concern is how does and I'm in favor of Shane and Dable sticking around. I want to see them get to properly get their quarterback and build them. So I think it's you fully expect them to take a quarterback, and then all you need to see is flashes in that rookie's year to say, okay, we're on to something here, which should buy them at least another year. So Joe Judge never had this overachieving, take us to the playoffs. Joe Judge survived after 1 year because it was a historically bad division where I think we were still alive and finished the season with 6 wins.
That was a tough year. I think Washington won the division that year with 7 or maybe 8 wins.
Just because someone had to win it. Like, it was the worst division. It was, and that's how Judge survived that year. And it was like, wow, we're alive. And it's like week 12, we have meaningful football. And we've been down so bad that was worth hanging on to at that time, even though Joe Judge didn't really show anything as a coach. But I there are a couple pieces, but I think now this is an opportunity to really right the ship and do what you probably should have done last year, which is tear it down and start to move forward. We brought back a lot of guys that were either mediocre or were just part of what was an overachieving season. So I think we bought into the fool's gold. And you talked about Mara a little bit, and he is obviously part of the equation here because we have long suspected that he is pulling strings, from behind the scenes. And you got to figure that he gave his vote, when he was interviewed last season, and he's like, oh, we did everything to screw that guy up. And I think we have a quarterback. Like, he didn't have to say all that. He could have said, I've got the guys in charge now that I trust to go through their process. And I hired them because I trust them to make the best decision for this football team. He didn't say that. He defended Daniel Jones and he pushed for Daniel Jones, which is, whether you're right or wrong, yes, it's been a bad scenario, but at the end of the day, you're defending what's been a whole lot of losing and underperforming. And that's where the argument just got exhausting for me. Like, I'm tired of whether he was dealt a bad hand or not. At some point, just try something else, because you can't, don't waste another couple of years trying to make it work when it has.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. And I think the thing that really bothered me about the whole equation was the team that they were rostering never really quite gave you that potential to really win a Super Bowl. it felt like a team that was always going to fall flat and always fall short, that they were missing things in certain departments, right? It's like you look back at last year and fans, rightfully so, complained about this wide receiver core. You know, I heard Walmart workers, Target workers, Best Buy workers, shout out to everybody that's working at those places too, because we got to feed our society, right? But at the end of the day, it's like you got all those guys and you pretty much brought them back, and the ones you didn't bring back, you tried to supplement with players who are just equal value. No one looked at Paris Campbell and thought that that was going to be an extreme upgrade from Richie James. You brought back Isaiah Hodgins, a guy who was pretty much on practice squad for the Buffalo Bills, and outside of that has done nothing else. We know what Darius Slayton is capable of, which is probably not being a wide receiver one in this league. And then you got guys who have been injured for the last couple of years, like Sterling Shepard, coming back in this wide receiver core. And then now you wonder why the pass attack is stalling out the way that it is. I think they banked a little bit too high on the impact of Darren Waller. And I really think, I want to say they banked a little bit too much on Jalen Hyatt, but the way that they just like weren't giving him snaps in the beginning of the year reminds you a lot of what they did with Kadarius Toney the first year too, and even with Kenny Golladay, who I know was a shell of himself, but still the guy was getting paid $72 million and he was getting no snaps. And we thought that it was going to be Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay out there. Brian Dable and this regime came in, they're like, everybody's got to earn their spot. And now you got two of your best playmakers sitting on the sidelines. You know, even Darius Slayton was a product of that too. He didn't even get to play until about 4 weeks into the season because of how Brian Dable and them approached that season. So for me, I just think they like you said, they kind of blinded themselves. They kind of just like looked at the way that they achieved in 2022 and felt like, hey, we got a team that we can, you know, put out there that's going to go out there and win games. I watched the GM Shuffle podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Lombardi. He's the one who said the disease of me comments, right?
Yeah.
Now, he came out on the GM Shuffle and he said, you know, him and Brian Dable were both in New England together, so they have a relationship together, right? They talk, and he said, I haven't talked to Brian Dable all this year. He said, when I talked to Brian Dable last year after the New York Giants went to the playoffs, blah, 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 he said he was trying to tell Brian Dable, like, yo, this is kind of fugazi. This is kind of some smoke with what you got going on over there. And he said Brian Dable kept telling him, oh, you know, man, you're my guy. Once I get things going, I'm going to bring you into the front office. And Mike Lombardi was like, man, don't worry about that. I'm just trying to tell you what the facts are here. And don't get fooled by the product that you're seeing on the field. He said Brian Dable has not called him since that conversation.
Damn.
So it looks like the New York Giants kind of were avoiding the truth. And like I was telling the people in the chat earlier, it seems like Brian Dable clocked out now. I don't know if you saw the presser after this game. It was short, sweet. There was a lot of just like, we done? I'm trying to get up out of here.
That's probably his best strategy right now, because I don't think Mara wanted to fire Joe Judge, but because he was just completely becoming unhinged at the mic, it was like he left no choice. And like, I do think maybe more than other fan bases, I do think we are heard to a certain extent, where we get real loud about things. And Mara, one thing, the way to get to him is either stop going to the games or you boo the shit out of everybody when they take the field. Like, that's stuff that he can't stand, and that gets to him. And I think we do become heard, whether we think so or not. Sometimes we like to take credit for it. I know I do, even though I have nothing to do with it. I like to take credit for
that Kenny Golladay signing. I was definitely on that wave. I was like, go get Golladay. And then finally signed him. I'm like, yeah, they hearing your boy Awthentik.
Dude, I'm taking a lap on this one. It's such a stupid one to take a lap for too. But when Gano cost us a game because against the Jets, and they said the week before the guy needs surgery, and you're still trotting him out there, it's either mismanagement because you literally didn't have enough money to bring in a new kicker, which is just like the saddest thing I've ever heard if you can't afford another kicker. But you're putting him out there and he's costing you games. He's clearly not right. And then I heard like big heads that I respect a lot saying he's fine. If he says he's fine, he's fine. I'm like, he's a kicker with a knee injury. He has like one very specific job. And if one of his fucking legs is compromised, it's going to throw things off. And you saw it there. So I was ahead on that one and I was banging the table. I love Gano. When he's healthy, I'll take him over any kicker not named Justin Tucker. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take him. But the dude was not right. And he was costing us games. And I was like, now we're 2-6. Like, just get the surgery, bro. Like, come back next year. It's a wrap. And it's a place kicker. Like, come on. There's got to be a better way here. And I was met with resistance at first, and then I was taking my stupid lap when they signed some other kickers.
That's a good lap to take, man. That's a good lap to take. And I mean, a kicker with a knee injury is like a quarterback with a throwing arm injury. You can't have that. You really can't.
You can't do it, dude. You can't.
And I think Brian Dable really mismanaged that. Coming out in that interview and saying like he's fine. Like, he literally used the word he's fine, and then a couple days later, Gano's on IR. You can't do that. I like coaches to be a bit like stoic and a bit, just kind of having like a little bit of discreetness to the way that they do their press conferences, but you can't go out here and just lie to the fan base because that's going to look really bad.
Especially this fan base, because we sniff that stuff out. You can't just get away with anything and say anything here. So like, I do want Shane and Dave's back, but there's obviously room for improvement. There were draft picks that were not home runs or questionable. Dave's, there's room to improve with time management. The way they've handled injuries has been weird. I don't know what's going on with Giants being the most injured team year in and year out. I don't know. Like a lot of people are calling for Ronnie Barnes. I feel like he treats injured players. I don't think it's his fault that people are getting injured. I mean, you could say that it's due to get somebody a little younger in there. And okay, the guy's been there since like the 70s or something.
Yeah.
But they need to, I mean, the O-line coach has not done enough to say, let's bring them back. Let's run that back, special teams. Kafka, I'm kind of on the fence about. I don't know how much is truly his fault, but you mentioned it before, and I've been saying it. Dable is a proven offensive coordinator, right? Where Kafka, it's like you're trying to almost mold Kafka into a play caller, but Dable's done it. And I would not, especially if you're bringing in a rookie quarterback next year, I'd like to see Dable take those reins back. You see some of the best offenses in the league. The Chiefs, Andy Reid didn't hand his clipboard over.
Yeah,
that dude is calling plays. You know what I mean? In San Fran, he's calling plays. So like, do it. If you're ultimately the guy in charge, I'm not giving that power to somebody else. If I think I know the best thing to do for my team. So I wouldn't mind Dable taking the reins back.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And especially when things are just going completely left at this point, you don't want to like have this ship sink and it wasn't on your own merit as the captain, really driving this offense.
Yep. Hell yeah.
All right, so let's get right to it, man. I think I got 4 or 5 overreactions. I normally show my guests the overreactions before we go live, but you're going to have to, just pull a little freestyle vibe here and, just deal with it. So let's see. I want to take a little gander at them real quick. Okay, yeah, these are really good. Let's get off into this first giant overreaction, yo. All right, Jefe. Let's see your thoughts on this one. I saw this one. This is from my homie, Charles Sweeney on Twitter. He said, no quarterback can play behind the New York Giants offensive line. These are the fans who are insinuating that, hey, maybe it's not all on the quarterback. I think a lot of it is on the quarterback right now, especially with Tommy DeVito being thrown out there. And for those of y'all that are in the chat that are new here, if you agree with the statement on the screen, you can put a U in the chat to represent that you are taking the under and you agree with the statement on the screen. If you indeed think that the statement on the screen is an overreaction, I need you to put a O in the chat to represent that you are saying that the statement is an overreaction. And if you need a little bit of more time to see maybe another quarterback, maybe a Matt Barkley to a Barkley type situation here, you can take the push and you can put a P in the chat. I'm going to start with El Jefe. Y'all in the chat, y'all can start spamming y'all votes and we'll see how y'all feel about it. I know El Jefe probably gonna keep his eyes on that chat to see how people voting and whatnot. But how you feeling about this, El Jefe? Do you think that no quarterback can play well behind the New York Giants offensive line?
Wild overreaction. I'm convinced you're not watching other NFL games, or you just took a nap during Tyrod's couple games when he was playing, because the offense and defense played better when Tyrod was in there. So if you think that the defense isn't watching, paying attention, feeling like the offense can help keep them alive, or they're seeing something they like and they're playing harder, the quarterback is everything in this game. So, I mean, you and I have talked about C.J. Stroud, the difference that he's made starting off his career, 15 touchdowns, 1 pick to start his career. He's talking about record-breaking stuff, and this was a team projected to go nowhere this year, absolutely nowhere. And that kid is lightning in a bottle, and I just love watching him play. So I do not buy this for a second that there's not a quarterback that can succeed here or have at least better success than what we've seen. I think that's crap. Maybe there's no giant quarterback on this roster that can truly elevate, and, but we haven't seen a quarterback truly make the people around him better in some time. But at least Tyrod was showing you that there are things you can do pre-snap and there are shots you can take, right? And he had we had like 6 plays of 20+ yards in that first half. Forget the opponent, his first full start. And
versus the Bills, I believe.
Yeah, and we saw enough right there, and that's a good team right there. We saw enough right there to know there are shots to be had, because you watch every other team do it, and now a different quarterback stepped in and did it with the same exact surroundings.
And that's exactly how I feel about the situation. And you said pre-snap read, which is so important. I think a lot of I won't say casual fans, but just like a lot of normal fans, they don't really understand the pre-snap read stuff, that's how you get people in line to be able to be in position to make plays. I think when we saw Tyrod Taylor, he was much better at pre-snap read than Daniel Jones was. Even not knowing the philosophy of the offense and the way that they're calling the plays and whatnot, you just see Tyrod Taylor being more decisive, can manipulate the pocket much better than Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones, it's like try to make one move, and if it's not there in the pocket, he's going to have to take a hit or take off running. And Tyrod kind of showed you that. And Tyrod's I'd say an average backup in the NFL right now. Just imagine what it would look like with a true starting quarterback out there, a high-caliber starting quarterback. And I look to guys like Joe Burrow, who, had the 31st ranked offensive line the year that they went to the Super Bowl, got sacked 9 times in a playoff game and still found a way to win that game. So, it's not to neglect the offensive line, obviously. You got to build up this offensive line. But I always say this on this channel, man, a decisive quarterback is the best offensive lineman. My example that I always bring up, which is an egregious one a bit, but you look at Tom Brady with the Bucs, you look at Jameis Winston with the Bucs. Jameis Winston, 2019, 47 times he was sacked. They brought in Tom Brady the following year. They drafted just Tristan Wirfs at right tackle. Same offensive line from right guard all the way to left tackle. Tom Brady was only sacked 22 times that year. So I'm right there with you. Adam Costa says, bullcrap, Tyrod did well. Darius Smith says it's an overreaction. Kevin W. says he's taking the push. What do you consider well? Yeah, I think that is a good point to bring up there as well. I think what Tyrod was doing is he was doing a decent job. And if you get in a real starting quarterback out there, it should be an enhancement and a level up from what we saw from Tyrod Taylor. Serious Wasp, that's a dope name. What's going on, fam? I guess that's a pun on Ant-Man. Great. I saw that movie 3D. That joint was real dope. Or 4D. It was throwing water at me and all kind of shit in that, in that 4D experience. He says he did not do well. I guess that's subjective. Adam Costa says it's an overreaction. Corey Pate said triple overreaction one time. Shout out Kansan one time in the building. Tyrod looked better with the same line. Yeah, and Tyrod's line was worse at times. You can't forget that. Daniel Jones came out opening day against the Dallas Cowboys and got sacked like 8 times in that game, 9 times in that game. Tyrod Taylor was out there with third stringers and a bunch of just no-name dudes out there and still finding ways to stay upright and extend plays. Got El Jefe still in the chat one time, representing with the overreaction one time. Shout out El Jefe. Roman says it's an overreaction that Tyrod did it. Nomet says that Tyrod was okay. Yeah, he definitely was okay. I don't think Daniel Jones was okay this year. He's a Giant says overreaction. Shout out to Sal and the homie Monty one time. Y'all go subscribe to them. Great podcast over there, man. He's a Giant is all about prospects coming into the draft this year. So if you want to get, which quarterbacks are doing what, that's a great podcast to follow. Drop your link in the chat, Sal or Monty. I'm not sure who's representing the account right now, but shout out to y'all.
They just did the quarterback episode. It's a must watch. And
yeah, I watched the premiere. I got to peep some of that.
I'm happy for them. It took off as it should because they put a hell of a lot of work into it, and they're smart dudes, and it's perfect for Giants fans right now. That's what you should be watching. That's what you should be looking at now.
100%, man. Me and Sal talk ball every day. We've been talking ball every day for about a year now, man. So big shout out to Sal, man. Lewis says it's an overreaction as well. Chance said it was an overreaction. Kant said it was an overreaction. Michael Dubb. We got all overreactions in the building, man. Everybody knows the deal here. Serious Wise doubling down on the push one time. NYG season says it's an overreaction. The Bengals were a laughing stock until Joe Burrow got there. That's a fact. Bengals were 2-14 the year before they drafted Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow came in there, won 2 games out of his first 9, I believe it was, before blowing out his knee. And then obviously the offensive line means a lot when you blow out your knee. Came back the next year, they draft Jamar Chase, and they were in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think Joe Burrow's a good example of that. Fryer Villavisor is in the building. That's an interesting name. Shout out Fryer, new face in the building. Welcome to the fam. He says it's an overreaction. My Cowboys fam says it's an overreaction. Frank says overreaction. Big dog status in the building says this. I need some dog barks on this soundboard. He says it's an overreaction. Adam Costa says he calls bullcrap. Dom Dizzy in the building. Shout out Dom Dizzy. Says it's an overreaction. A good quarterback makes the line better. That's a damn fact. Monique says she's taking a push, representing those Cowboys. Mac taking a push, says most quarterbacks would struggle. Some may be functional. I can get with that take right there. I like the push on that. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets says it's an overreaction, but the line is an issue, just not our biggest issue. I feel you on it. Respect, bro. Respect. Represented the DMV one time in the building. James Jones in the building, a.k.a. He updated the name on us one time. Lil TNT in the building. Give him one of those one time. Says he's taking a push. Shout out to Beard. He's in the building representing the Over the Years account right now. He says, I need Barkley to Barkley in my life. I feel you on that. I definitely want to see that before the season is over. Kareem Yee says there's no reaction. Tyrod looked better, and Burrow went to the Super Bowl with a poor line. That's facts. We are using the exception to the rule.
For sure.
We are doing that. I think C.J. Stroud's a good example as well, too. Had 6 linemen that were injured or on IR early on in the year. Kirk Cousins did it this year, early on this year, too, without his left tackle, without his starting center. Still went out there and put up big numbers against the Philadelphia Eagles. So there are quarterbacks that are capable of doing this. They're not in the exact same situation, but they are in similar situations as far as the offensive line goes. Marjorie says it's an overreaction. We got a bunch of overreactions. Jay Jean in the building says, overreaction, however, ain't nobody having a record year with this line. I can dig that.
Agree.
Yeah, I can definitely dig that. Kevin W. said, push, what do you consider well? I didn't really think Tyrod played any better than what I've seen from Zach Wilson.
Oof.
That's a shot right there.
Ouch.
That's a major shot. Listen, Zach Wilson has played quarterback all but 4 downs for the New York Jets this season. The Jets have played in 10 games, I believe. They have 9 total touchdowns as a team. It's not the same as Zach Wilson. I can't give you that, bro.
Tyrod would have won them some games this year.
Oh, the Jets would be.
They'd be
if they
fine.
had Tyrod Taylor right now, they will be a way better team. That's for sure. But Tyrod can't stay healthy.
And I think it's relative. Like, no one can do well behind this line. I think it's relative to what you saw from Daniel Jones. And if it was better, I'm looking at that as no quarterback can do better. But I think Tyrod did, and he kind of proved that. Like, it's not well considered to like the best offenses in the league, but I think it's possible to have more success than we saw.
Most definitely. I think it was well considered to what we've been seeing for the past couple of years. And Chance Chambers brings this up, which reminds me about this stat, right? Tyrod put up the 2 touchdowns, 275 yards. He was only sacked 4 times in that game, right? You have to go all the way back to 2019 to find a quarterback for the New York Giants that had over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So think about that through the Daniel Jones era as well. So I definitely like that point that Chance brought up there. Darius Smith said, leaders lead. We're going to get into that in our next overreaction here. Mike B15 in the building one time. What's going on, fam? He said, I'm sure a decent amount of experienced vets could function behind it, but only the elite quarterbacks could put up great numbers and win games behind them. Right there with you, bro. That's a great take right there. Talking Eco said, CJ is overachieving with an average O-line, though. If you're in an O-line situation like Bryce, then I think only a small number of quarterbacks can. Yeah, and I think C.J. Stroud is a much better quarterback than Bryce Young. More mobile, bigger arm, bigger stature, bigger body, more decisive, more anticipatory. Just a better quarterback. I thought he was a better prospect as well. You know, I know a lot of people were extremely hype about Bryce Young. As soon as I saw Bryce at the Combine and he was standing next to C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, I was just like, I wouldn't take him off the strength of that.
That was enough for you. I mean, I wonder what the buyer's remorse is right now in Carolina, looking at how CJ is playing. I mean, it's early. Obviously, they got long careers ahead of them. Maybe we'll see. But
maybe, right?
You know, I took that back immediately because people make moves quickly and they overreact. So you never know. But the Texans, man, they won that whole Deshaun Watson situation. Man, they're coming really out on top. Big time in that one. They
definitely did. And Deshaun Watson, you know, I noticed as of late, he's been playing some decent football, but the Browns are just waiting for him to just get back to his elite play, which might not ever happen. It really might not ever happen ever again. We'll see. But the last 3 full games from Deshaun Watson have been decent games. 2 of those were 2 touchdown games, over 200 yards. And then I think this past week he had 1 touchdown. Big comeback win, man, against the Ravens this week, who I've definitely picked in that game too. Let me see what I think the general consensus here is that the statement on the screen is an overreaction.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say so too. And then shout out to the homie one time. Tudo is in the building. My man, what's going on, Tudo? Big supporter in the New York Giants community. He says massive salutes and respects to Awthentik #1, Awthentik in the beard. I like how he's been shortening this here. ATTK. It's more of an ATTB kind of situation. El Jefe and all the diehard Giants fans in America. And please slap all stinky boys losers out of the front door hard and fast. Gives the fist bump. Represent Italy one time. Biggest supporter in the Giants community, man. Big shout out to Tudo one time, man. Gang is in the building. We appreciate you, my guy. I see Eli Rax is in the chat too, man. We got gang. We got gang in the building, man. Shout out to all of y'all, man, pulling up, spending y'all Monday afternoon with Awthentik. And I brought up the homie El Jefe one time. Let's get off into this next Giant overreaction one time. See where y'all stance is on this one. All right, El Jefe, we're going right to you on all of these first. It gives me time to think, do my thing and whatnot. This one came from the homie JXC Campbell one time. He says, Saquon is a true leader. I really wanted to feature this one so I could talk a lot about leadership or lack of leadership in the New York Giants locker room. What's your thoughts on this one? I don't know if you're going to give your votes to the chat again. Get an extra, maybe O, maybe a U on this one. What you thinking on this one?
I think he is a leader, but you don't want, in today's NFL, you want your quarterback to be the true leader. And I think the great teams have that in common, right? Where you got that guy, the general, it's who other teams think about the second they think about your team. When you only have to stop a running back, it changes the whole vibe of the game and the conversation. And if their first focus is a running back, then that's not necessarily a team that's built the right way. So is he a leader? Is he a good guy in the locker room? Of course, he's all those things. Is he a true leader? I don't know. What are you trying to say, that you want him face of the franchise forever as your true leader? What are you saying exactly right there? Because it looks like the road could be coming to an end with Saquon. So if he is a true leader, that's not necessarily something you would have did. You wouldn't gone to that whole offseason crap with him with the tag and not being able to come to a deal. He didn't like the offer, and it was about money. And I get it. All these players got to get their money. Eli, what's up, bud? But I don't know. Is he a true leader? He is a leader. I'm gonna put it there. I might push on this one and say he's a leader.
I'm right there with you. I was going to take the push as well. I also see Mr. Glass half full in the building. What's going on, Spiro? Hope all is well. I got to take the push on this one as well. I think, I heard Base and Sal in one of the spaces, I think it was either this morning or yesterday, and they were talking about this situation too, about, Saquon being a leader. And they said a lot of what you said right there. Like, your quarterback should be the main leader. He touches the ball on every offensive play. He should be the guy that's getting the troops ready to go. He understands the responsibility not only that he has, but that he also has to understand what everyone else on the field does. I make a comparison to the movie Cool Runnings, where
I get all your references, by the way. We're the same age, so I get all your references.
Oh yeah, you already know. 83 in the building, man. So in Cool Runnings, I think that was John Candy who played that role. Rest in peace. I think John Candy passed away too. But he said to Darius, who was the driver, right? When they were picking the driver, it was either between Darius or it was between Sanka, right? And he looked at Sanka. Sanka said, look, man, I'm the best push cart driver in the whole Jamaica, bro. Like, I need to be the driver. And John Candy told him, he said, look, the driver, when everybody out partying, drinking beer, he's going to have to be in his room studying the turns. He's going to be the guy that's responsible for the lives of the other three in the bobsled. You want that guy to be the leader. You don't want the guy who's doing the brakes or one of the middlemen in the bobsled to be the leader. And I think that's the same thing here. It's like you want Daniel Jones to be the leader. A lot of people like to make those comparisons to Eli Manning, right? Because Eli Manning was very quiet, very chill. He wasn't the kind of guy who was going to be extremely vocal, even throughout the whole situation of being benched, from Ben McAdoo to the Odell Beckham comments in the interview with Josina Anderson. Eli Manning was very quiet and remained a professional. But on that field, Eli Manning knew how to lead with his play. And I think he was a guy that knew how to be first in and last out in that locker room. Victor Cruz and Mario Manningham talked about it in one of the Super Bowl interviews where they said, look, Eli was hitting us up like, listen, let's get together outside of the facility and talk about how we're going to do all these pre-snap reads. And I'm going to have a couple of calls for y'all. If y'all see something or if I see something, we're going to be able to adjust. And I think in return, that's how the New York Giants ended up winning 2 Super Bowls in the Eli Manning era. When you look at teams that are relying on a running back to be the leader, that's very difficult. And Sal and them had brought up, Derrick Henry. And look at the issues that are happening with the Tennessee Titans over there. They're still struggling to find their quarterback. And I said this in the spaces with them. I do think that Ryan Tannehill was a good leader. I think he was, right? But the thing is that his play did not match the leadership. You had Derrick Henry go down in that season. I think they lost him around week 7 or week 8. And Ryan Tannehill led them to a #1 spot in the AFC. We're talking
That's
during
crazy.
Patrick Mahomes being out there, okay? We're talking Josh Allen still in the league, Joe Burrow in the league, and the Tennessee Titans without their #1 weapon, they still got a #1 spot. So to me, that showed leadership. That team was probably looking at the quarterback to be the guy to lead them. Now, if you're going to, a lot of people are looking at people like Dexter Lawrence to be a leader, because he's our best player on defense. I think same thing goes for the defense. You cannot be a guy who just plays a role of D tackle, plugging up the middle, and be the true leader that the defense is going to look towards. There's a guy in that huddle that's going to be calling the plays. He's going to be calling the shots. He's got to know where everybody needs to be lined up. You ever see, I'm sure you've seen this. I'm just speaking more to the family in the chat when I say this, right? But when you see a defender on the line up wrong and you see the linebacker come over and tap him on the hip like, nah, you need to be in this gap.
Yep.
That's the guy you want to be the leader. And I think Bobby Okereke can be that guy, right? but he just got here. So we got to give him some time to get his feet wet. We're halfway through a terrible testing season for this team, and it's hard to be a leader on a bad team because people don't even want to look towards leadership. I've always been a leader in my life, no matter what sport I played, whether it was basketball, baseball, football, getting the homies together to try to put together shows. You're in the music industry, and you know how that goes. There's always somebody in a band, right? I used to rock with a band all the time, and there's always someone in the band that got to lead the thing, right? They got to be like, we're getting together on these days for practices. They got to text everybody and make the group chat and all that stuff. There's always going to be that guy. When you're in a losing situation, it's hard to be that leader. I've been with bands like where, you got a certain instrument player who doesn't even want to show up to practice, but he's going to be at the gig. Yep. And he's going to show up and he's going to be missing some notes, and you got to act like everything's cool when this dude's messing up the show. I think it's very hard to do that on a bad team. So I think eventually Bobby Okereke can be the leader for this defense, but ultimately it's got to be the quarterback who's going to be the main leader on this team.
Great analogies. I mean, the band thing I wouldn't have brought up most. I don't know if you've played in a band, you totally get that. There's the guy that organizes everything, and then when bands break up, which they do all the time, it's because the tension is not worth it anymore. And there's always that honeymoon phase where like you're gigging, you're writing songs, it's great, everything's working, and then when it comes time to work and you got to grind through some stuff, then you all got to be in on it, and that's when like the true colors come out. That's where you really see it. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Eli, because Eli was never the vocal rah guy, but he was a silent killer, man. When 2 minute, 4 minute offense, once Eli was in those years, I always wish they would just go hurry up more often, because he was just an absolute killer. When it became time, 2 minutes left in the half for the game, Eli was that dude. And we never had that like payout, like all the stuff you see from DJ and everything. He didn't do enough where you would put up with the bad stuff, because you knew you had that too. Eli had plenty of ugly games, dude.
Totally.
Multiple interceptions, pick sixes, all that crap, plenty of lost games, but he was clutch. And there's one thing like you can't doubt about him, is that he was clutch all the time. And you knew you had that guy.
Very, very fearless, man. That's what I loved about Eli Manning. And my homie Stan, he had texted me when we were talking about this in the spaces. He quoted something from Michael Strahan's Hall of Fame speech where he talked about Eli. And he said for years, Michael Strahan was talking about himself, for years, he'd be trying to like rile people up, get them all hyped up, and it just wouldn't work. He said nothing worked until we got that guy who was the silent killer at the quarterback position, which I think the New York Giants definitely need to find a way to get that guy in place. Shout out to Alvaro Andres one time in the building. He says, whenever you hear Saquon talk, whether in interviews or about players, he speaks like a true leader, and when people and players talk about him, they speak about him with high regard. Saquon, as a leader, FS, I'm not sure what he means right there. But I definitely feel
for sure.
Oh, for sure. Okay, yeah. I do think he is a true leader. He's just put in a position where he shouldn't have to be the main leader. And he's having to be that. You saw him on the sideline during this game when things getting out of control. He's on the sidelines trying to keep people calm, trying to be that main leader. But like I said, man, when you're in a losing, type of situation, it's really hard to lead people to L's, leading people to victories. And when they see that proof, when you get those victories, they can trust your leadership a lot more. And I think that the New York Giants locker room is lacking a lot of trust right now, because they feel like they're going into these games without having a shot.
I feel like they understand the writing on the wall. They probably know what the Giants are looking to do and where they need to go. And for a lot of these guys, they're playing for another contract, and they need to amp everybody up and make themselves look better. And other guys are just, damn, like, I mean, if you made it in the pros, even if you're not a great pro, you were a beyond stud in high school. You were a winner in college. You stood out in college at a high level, and now you're in the pros. So whether you're a good or a bad pro, you're an absolute stud just to be there. You're not used to losing. This is new for a lot of these guys. They're big ego guys. So it's not easy for these guys to just keep your head up and be professional 100% of the time when you're getting your ass beat. Nobody wants that. And these guys are not used to it. So it's going to be real hard to keep the locker room together, but they just, I don't know. You just got to get through this shit.
I'm glad you brought up the ego, because I started a comment here that I definitely wanted to bring to our attention here. Amp Universe says, we need a quarterback with an ego and an aura around him. How you feel about that?
I think we need, like, you talk about having that dog, that confident dude, that leader that'll grab guys if he has to and like get in their face. Like, I would love to see that. We've had two quarterbacks, and talking about Eli and Daniel Jones, that didn't show a lot of emotion at all. So it's not a necessity, right? Like, you saw Eli get it done by being a quiet type, but he did enough on the field. So I think if you're lacking at all on the field, you got to bring it in other ways and make the kind of plays that make people rally around you. And you got to be able to rally the troops and not just call the plays in the huddle because somebody whispered it to you. You got to show them that you're leading this team and making people better around you.
That's a great point. And for me, when you look at like the greatest players to ever play sports, right? You look at basketball and you look at guys like Kobe, Jordan, and you look at football, Tom Brady's, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, all these dudes exuded confidence and straight swag. Like they were just all about like, I'm going to beat my opponent. You look at even a guy like Steph Curry, who's pretty quiet, but you're getting that guy that's going to go out there and just drop buckets on somebody. Shaquille O'Neal was another one. Confidence is so important in sports, and I think that we do need a quarterback that has a little bit of that ego, because sometimes a quarterback especially, right? And this is why I like Michael Penix coming out of this draft. He's already battled through a bunch of adversity. 2 big knee injuries. He had the big shoulder injury as well, right? And when you can come out on top of that and still have that it and that swag and that confidence, kind of like Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts was a guy whose job was took away from him in college, went to another school, still balled out, 2nd-round draft pick in the draft, and now he's the guy that they're looking at. People that drafted those 1st-round quarterbacks, they're looking at Jalen like, damn, we missed out. I want that guy, the guy who can go through the adversity and still have the ego, because sometimes, adversity breaks an ego. A lot of these people, you see a guy like Ben Simmons, when he came out of LSU, I believe it was, he was so confident coming into the league, and then he completely just like confidence was broken, and now he's a shell of himself. Markelle Fultz dealt with that as well. Like couldn't even shoot a free throw. He'd be up there like shaking and jittering because his confidence was completely shot. I think that Daniel Jones is dealing with a bit of that, because Jones came into this league the preseason of 2019. I was like, holy hell, I think we got our franchise quarterback. This dude was 80% in the preseason. Then he comes out the first game we get to see him in against Tampa Bay, and it's like, holy, this kid is lighting it up.
We got a quarterback.
Fearless. Yeah. We got a quarterback. And somewhere along that lines with Jason Garrett and Joe Judge and all that turmoil that happened, I think it broke him. And his confidence that he had coming out of college, it just doesn't show anymore. And I think we do got to find a quarterback that does have that ego and especially has that aura and that it factor around him. Shout out Amp Universe, man, because that was a great comment right there.
Maybe I'm out of line with this. You can tell me if you disagree. But it drives me crazy listening to Daniel Jones speak. That's why I have so much fun with it. Like I'll do the damn it Daniels where I just feel like I'm talking to him and just yelling at him. I just want to shake him, like wake the fuck up, dude. Like when he speaks, there's no confidence. When he's on Kay Adams' show, he struggles with putting words together. And this is the guy you're putting as your fucking general to dissect a defense and find the open guy. God, dude, like that's the stuff. Like maybe it doesn't matter, but to me it does. Like I see that. That's not the guy whose jersey you want to rock, who you just trust to go into the trenches and come out with a win. I'm
glad you said that. That you want to rock his jersey. That's so important. I thought that we were seeing a little bit of that. Confidence being instilled in him during the first year of Brian Dable's tenure. I can remember when we beat the Colts, like you see Daniel Jones, like right before you go out there and you get the first drive, he's like dapping people up like, all right, here we go. Let's go. He's on the bench, when they're not on the field and trying to get people ready. And then it just kind of like, the losing breaks him. I feel like it really breaks him. But I think that's a great point you make. Never been a great speaker in front of the podium at these pressers. It's been really bad. He's just like, I don't like that either.
Yeah, like Eli didn't say anything in pressers either, but he knew how to speak.
Right.
He knew how to put words together.
Yeah, I remember when you did one of your videos, you said, like they were like, Daniel, what dog would you be if you were a dog? And he was like, golden retriever. You were like, damn it, Daniel. Like, I definitely felt you on that.
That was one of the first ones. That pissed me off so much. Like, oh, maybe yellow. I think he said a lab.
A lab. Yeah.
The least threatening, just pet the good boy. Just the worst possible dog you would want. Whereas, like, what do you think Lamar Jackson would have said? You know what I mean? Like,
Lamar would have absolutely said, I'm a Rottweiler or a pit bull.
Exactly. Lie to me, Daniel. Don't say you're a fucking lap poodle. Like, come on, man. I need more. A whole lot more from the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. I see a few people in the chat saying, "Oh, it's cool," but like for me, I just want one of those people that like when they speak at the podium, you feel confident after a loss, after a win. And I hate to keep bringing up Philadelphia's quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is just so damn good at the podium, man. He just says everything that you want to hear from your quarterback.
I hate it because he's an Eagle, but he's exactly pretty much what you want as a quarterback. He's confident. He's got the swag. He handles himself perfectly. He's a pro. Like, what else do you want, really? And he's in the right position, right place, right time.
Yeah, I see Darius Smith says DJ is fine. He doesn't let stuff phase him. Sometimes you got to let stuff phase you. You know what I mean? Like they're teetering the balance of like being confident at the podium and also like not getting to that Joe Judge, like losing your shit kind of, there's a balance there that you
Yeah.
need. Like things need to bother you. It like when your team goes out there and gets beat 40-0, I don't want to hear you saying like, oh, we just all need to get better. Like, nah, I want you to go out there and be like, yo, this shit is unacceptable. We need to go out here and win these damn games. Like go out here and instill confidence in this fan base because they're looking at you as the face of the franchise, you know?
And there are moments of that from DJ. Like we had to wait so long in between for those moments of like pure confidence or raw emotion. It's like, dude, it's in there. Like football's like people gave Caleb shit for crying after the game. It's such a big part of football. You see guys get emotional all the time. The Michigan coach who broke down after that game, like it's such a big part of the game. There's nothing wrong with it. So you don't have to shove it down all the time. Like just let that shit come out, man.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions, it kind of shows that these players or these coaches care. Like I remember when Odell Beckham was running up and down our sidelines and he was yelling at the team, y'all don't care. Like I'm like, I feel you, Odell. They over here sitting up here like these losses are okay. You want to build a community and a locker room full of leaders, man. Guys who want to go after that win by any means necessary. You don't want these dudes just sitting on the bench just being like, oh, this is all good. I'm getting my game check, and that's what matters the most.
I'm probably overstaying my welcome. You can kick me out anytime you need.
Do your thing, man. As long as you want to stay, you can stay. We got about 3 more overreactions, and then I'm going to get out of here myself. Probably try to keep this 1 to 2 hours, I'll say. These are always long format, but if you got a dip, do your thing. You already know what it is. You always welcome here, Jefe.
I'll stick around. Let's do these overreactions. Let's do it.
Let's get to it. All right, so I actually got 2 more. I got 2 more. All right, let's get to this next one, y'all. I think this one is a fairly easy one. You might be thinking a little bit different.
Awthentik.
This one is from your boy Awthentik on Twitter. The New York Giants are currently the worst team in the NFL. Right now, we own the 2nd pick in the NFL draft. The Carolina Panthers have the number 1 pick. They're sitting on just 1 victory. The Cardinals improved. They got 2 victories now. They got Kyler Murray, a quarterback. That boy was looking pretty damn good on Sunday. Jefe, what's your thoughts on this? Are the New York Giants currently the worst team in the NFL?
They're in the conversation, so this can't be a crazy overreaction. They got to be in the conversation. Like I'm trying to think, like if Carolina is the only other team that I would consider really at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to think.
I think you could maybe throw the Denver Broncos in there, the New England Patriots possibly.
Yeah, there's some ugly teams. I mean, we're in the conversation. We're definitely in the conversation. But like, how do we beat anybody if we can't score? Like this right now, we might be the worst team in the league because we have an undrafted rookie leading the way. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's not an over. I'm going to say it's a push because we're easily in the conversation. It's we're a bottom 4 team. I think that's definite. The chat's making me laugh. But I'm gonna say it's a push, but it's not crazy. It's not a crazy take.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm agreeing with the dude that tweeted this one out here, man.
I bet you are.
I definitely think the New York Giants are the worst team in the league, especially in this current state right here. Offensively, I mean, the Giants got to the half and they had 17 yards of offense.
Yeah, yep.
We've seen things with the Jets where their offense stalls out and whatnot, but at least they have a defense that always holds it down and keeps them in games. I think the Carolina Panthers right now would beat the New York Giants. I think they got a little bit more offensive firepower. Defensively, probably a similar team. The New York Giants, they played decent on defense the previous 2 to 3 weeks before this. But when you look at the way that they've been defending, teams across the year, even our run defense, which has looked better the past 2 weeks, they were ranked like 27th coming into this game. I just think Carolina has a bit of better pieces out there. They have a solid foundation at wide receiver as far as Adam Thielen. He's been out there at least getting to it. Hayden Hurst at tight end. Darren Waller, who was supposed to be our main weapon, has been hurt now for a couple of weeks on the IR. I just think we're the worst team right now. And I think the Carolina Panthers, hopefully, they can find a way to win some more games and give us that number 1 spot. I see that the homie Amp Universe did send in a super chat for that exact chat that I pulled from the chat because it was just such a great question, man. So big shout out to Amp Universe, man. Definitely appreciate you supporting that channel one time. But yeah, I can't take the push on this because this is the real reason why I can't take the push on this one. It's about to get worse.
It is going to get worse before it gets better. So your take might be like a week or 2 ahead of its time because if we're in the conversation right now, it's hard to argue with that. Dude, it's just bad. You're right. We're the fucking worst. I take it back. Yeah, we're the worst team in the fucking league. There's no defense. How can I defend this team?
Yo, shout out Momo one time in the building, man. Momo, the GOAT, is here in the building, man. Big shout out to Momo. You're going to get one of these, Momo. Yo, Momo said, we are the worst team in football by miles and miles and miles. Like, yes, definitely looking real bad for the New York Giants. I think, it's like I'm laughing at the pain now. It's kind of funny, but like, damn, it's unfortunate that we went from being a team that was like right there, one game away from the NFC Championship to being the worst team in the NFL. And injuries definitely did derail that. I think healthy, we're probably not the worst team in the NFL, but the way Darren Waller, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley dealing with injuries this year, man. Defensive side of the ball, now you got Kayvon, Deontay Banks dealing with injuries, Adoree Jackson. It's been tough for us.
As usual, it's Saquon and then nobody else, right? Yeah. As the Giants' offense. So it's too easy to just stop one guy. So there's nowhere for this offense to go right now. When you're talking about undrafted rookie and then receivers who are not probably going to be on the team for long, except Wandale. Yep. So yeah, you're not wrong.
That's definitely real. Shout out to homie Zeke in the building, man. Zeke's a big supporter of the channel. He said he's taking the under. He agrees with the statement on the screen. Nobody is getting blown out like the Giants are getting treated. That's a fact, man. Like, these games don't even be close, man. And, like, here's the crazy part. I was trolling some Eagles fans on a Lord Brunson tweet earlier today, right? And they thought I was a Cowboys fan because Lord Brunson said, the Cowboys are losing to fraudulent teams. And he listed all the wins, and I was like, "Wait a minute, though! Like
they're beating.
You're listing the Jets. Yeah. The Jets beat the Eagles, right? Put the Obama emoji like this, right? So all of them start attacking me, right? And they're like, "Well, your Cowboys stink, you clown." And people call me. I'm like, "Well, look, I'm not a Cowboys fan, right? Y'all haven't played us yet, and y'all haven't beat us yet." And I put "yet" in all capital letters. I'm trying to envision what these next two games against the Philadelphia Eagles are going to look like. After the way that these two Dallas Cowboys games look like. Can't forget the Philadelphia Eagles, when we played them in the divisional game, they got up 28-0 on us at the half. Blew us out in that game. The first meeting that was in December, I believe, they blew us out in that game as well. Our best outing against them was when we had, what was my man, Davis Webb at the quarterback position at the last game of the season. So I'm not looking forward to those. I think those blowouts are going to get even worse. Seattle was a pretty big blowout. San Francisco was a big blowout. Two big blowouts against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, we got blown out by the Raiders.
You want to know why else it's getting worse? Is because guys, if they're not already, they're going to start making business decisions. You know what I mean? If it's a play at the goal line, they're not breaking their collarbone to try and stop this dude right now. They're trying to get through this season and survive like everybody else. So you're not going to lay yourself on the line, and those plays matter. That turns into 7 points when who knows what would have happened. So it's definitely going to get worse before it gets better. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely here for it as well, man.
We're not going anywhere.
I'm
Don't worry,
embracing that tank now. I'm embracing it. I'm just like, damn, I didn't want to get here, but I'm here, man.
I shared it yesterday. My dad texts me like all game, every game if we're not together, and he's flipping out over the play calling. I'm like, Dad, please don't let this team upset you this year anymore. I know where you're coming from. You're the reason I'm a fan, but this isn't the year. Trust me. Just if you have to watch. Just put Red Zone on and enjoy football, because don't get upset at this team.
That's the best way to do it, man. Like I'll have like I watch games right here at my computer, and I'll just like divvy up the screen, quad box, octo box. I got every game up, Red Zone up, and the Giants game up. I'm just like, all right, I keep my eye on the Giants game. I have the audio on the Giants game, but I'm watching it, across the league, man. Red Zone is a great way to watch football, man. How old is your pops?
He is 73.
Man, so this is tough, man. I was talking about how I only got about a good 30 summers left of rooting for this damn team. Pops at 70-something looking at this team like, man, I just want another winning season, man. I definitely feel for Pops.
Dude, and he just had a heart procedure a week and a half ago, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to be like, do not get upset again, or else I'm going to come over and sit next to you and change the channel. Like, you do not need to be yelling about this game, especially with a heart problem going on.
Yeah, we got a real Pops out of that, most definitely. Momo said that the Giants have the worst point differential in football. We lose by an average of 14.8 points per game. The closest team to us is Carolina. They lose by an average of 9 points per game. God.
All right, we're the worst team in football. I took it back. I'm sorry, Momo. Release me.
Eagles beat us 77-0, Marjorie says. Marjorie's always dropping those bombs on the gang one time. Shout out, Marjorie. All right, we got one more Giant overreaction, and we'll get Jefe up out of here, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's fun.
Oh, man, you know it, bro. You know it, man. This was long overdue, man. I got to get the other fellas up here on the show one time, too. And I figured, season's going into a terrible direction. Like, I saw you in the chat. I was like, I figured Jefe probably got some free time to come up here and chop it up, man. So appreciate you pulling up, man, spending your Monday afternoon with us.
You got it, man. Timing
Let's
was
get
right.
off into this last one. This one is, I saved this one for last because it's a really, really, really good one. Let's get off in this last overreaction. This one comes from my good homie Cross. Some people think Cross is a troll on Twitter. I just think Cross has some interesting takes, and I love this one when I saw this one this morning. I was like, this is a great take. He says, giving Daniel Jones 5 years, but bailing on Brian Daboll after 2 years is insane. A lot of the fan base woke up today. They calling for Brian Daboll's job out here. A lot of people are blaming more on Brian Daboll than they are on the quarterback situation in New York. What's your thoughts on this one? Do you agree with the statement on the screen? You taking the under, or do you think my man Cross 420 is having a moment of overreacting?
No, I'm taking the under. I love this take. Daniel Jones 5 years. Daboll has proven success in this league as a good offensive mind. He's done it. He's been there. He's had sustained success. He's been in the league for 20 years, whatever. Daniel Jones was a project that never came to fruition. We're still trying to make it work by firing people and adjusting everything around him. So it is insane. Daboll needs to stay. The worst thing Daniel Jones could do is get another coach fired. Like, we got to stop. We got to stop.
That'll be three coaches, like stop. 4 coordinators.
Like, at some point, you're the problem. So under, I'm with this take, definitely.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the under on this one as well. Either way, I'm not calling for Brian Daboll's job.
Look at that.
I think he deserves another year.
NYG season, damn. I got one on my leg, but that's commitment right there.
That's big commitment right there. Gang is in the building, man. Shout out to the homie NYG season, man. A lot of people taking the under on this one, man. Hey, Cross is in the building. My guy, what's going on? Hey, Cross, what's popping?
The star of the show coming through.
Yeah, man. Cross in the building. I didn't even tell him I was going to feature him on the show today with this giant overreaction. I should have let him know, man. It's definitely not an overreaction. I think it's a great statement, man. I loved it. He's a Giant, says, I don't understand why people don't think a second-year head coach can improve. He's taking the under as well. Shout out Sal and Monty one time. Like we said earlier, make sure y'all go subscribe to that channel. Cross said people can argue with their moms. Yo, Cross is coming for the smoke
He's
today.
Like, come fight me. I said what I said. He's right. He's right.
Shout out Steven in the building one time. Me and Steven talk about a lot of Giants football on Twitter as well. He says, if you are going quarterback, you have to commit to Daboll for 2 years. Can't have him prioritizing his job over developing a quarterback. It's a great point. Steven's always got some really sound takes. I am Jarrell's taking the push on this one. Just don't lose the locker room. I like that.
That's harder to do than make it work with Daniel Jones. I mean, how do you keep these guys engaged when you just can't compete right now? I don't know. Like, is it even worth Daboll taking over play calling with what he's got? Or at this point, Kafka right? Take the fall. And just
you might need a good scapegoat. I'll tell you what, man, in the Joe Judge era, I thought that they fired Jason Garrett a little bit too early. I thought if they would have waited like 4 weeks to fire Jason Garrett, it would have kept Joe Judge like a little bit longer, might have kept his job throughout the season. Maybe he doesn't, have that boiling point at the podium.
That's a good point. Because then you had too much of Joe Judge not having any more excuses, and it got worse, I think.
Yeah, you had Freddie Kitchens out there calling plays. It got worse. It was like, oh, damn, maybe Jason Garrett wasn't as bad as we thought he was. He was definitely bad. But, yeah, I always said that. They fired him just a little bit too early. Could have used him as the scapegoat if you fired him around week 14 maybe, and then Joe Judge could have possibly kept his job. But, hey, this is all good news for the Giants fans.
Yeah, he couldn't take the heat. I mean, Joe Judge getting fired was the best thing that could have happened. So I don't regret the QB sneaks. In our own 5, that led us down hopefully the right path, getting us. I still like Shane and Daves. I want them, and that play may have hit those press conferences where he just looked like a fucking crazy person.
Yeah,
and then just completely being gutless on the football field just sealed his fate. I mean, not even trying to win, not trying to get first downs. What are you doing exactly?
And that he was in a situation kind of like what Brian Daboll is in right now, where it's like, yo, why didn't y'all address the third string quarterback position a little bit better in case this happened? You knew you had 2 injury-prone quarterbacks on the roster, right? And you banking on Tommy DeVito. And in that case, they brought in Jake Fromm from the practice squad of the Buffalo Bills. And then they had Mike Glennon, who was supposed to be a bit of an upgrade at the backup quarterback position, is what we thought until he got on the field. And Mike Glennon was absolutely awful. Giants couldn't get the ball past the 50-yard line. I do think they fired Joe Judge a bit early. I would like to see these coaches get at least 3 seasons. And we definitely cannot be, of the cloth of just firing coaches every 2 years. That's just not the vibes, man. You don't even get to find out what these guys are really about. The first year with Brian Dable, 6 wins, people were like, oh, we're headed in the right direction. I remember the whole fan base like, yeah, Joe Judge, man, what was it, a blue-collar type of guy. He represents the New York community. A year later, they hated that guy.
The guys were retiring from his camp. I mean, that's never a good sign. Like, fuck it, I'll give up my paycheck. This isn't worth it. I'm not running. I'm not running
this
laps.
ain't it.
No,
no Mets, no Nets,
beach.
no Jets is the only one so far I've seen with an overreaction. He says Dable has looked terrible, but he shouldn't be fired. And I'm right there with you on this. Like, Brian Dable has looked pathetic this year. The regression has been real. The offensive mastermind that we thought we had coming out of the first year, we haven't seen none of that this year. It's looked a lot like a vanilla type of approach. I remember having a conversation with Entertainer in the offseason when we played our first preseason game, and Tainer tweeted out, he said, after Daniel Jones had went 8 for 9 on that opening drive, and then they put him on the bench after that in that preseason game, he was like, oh, this is nothing. This is the vanilla version of what Brian Dable and them are doing. And I said, man, pump the brakes. I'm telling you, this is the offense right here. This is what they're trying to do. Target Darren Waller a ton, get rid of all that read option stuff that they were running in 2022. And then now you start to see it. They tried to open up the way this offense operated, tried to throw the ball down the field more. They abandoned most of that like designed run stuff they were doing with Daniel Jones. And in return, this offense completely regressed, and the quarterback wasn't ready for it, and neither was the weapons or the offensive line ready for it as well.
Facts. We rolled the dice on injury-prone players, and it backfired. And this is what we get. I could see the starting quarterback to start next year. I could see it being a guy that, like some veteran coming in. I don't know if they bother bringing Tyrod back, although he is a good backup as far as backups go. I don't know if they, for the same reasons, just the injuries, if you can trust them to hold it down for 3 or 4 games, because he could get knocked out at any moment. And I don't know if Jones will be ready, and I don't know if they want to throw the rookie right into the fire. So I could see them trying to get their hands on a veteran as that third option. And then at least at that point, you have 3 options. I mean, Jones, I don't know how he's not on the roster next year because of his contract, but I think their plan will be to move on from him after next season. Unfortunately, next season we're looking at next season as another like complete development. I mean, fuck, man, we're just far away. We are far away.
We thought. I'll say we, because I represent all the Giants fan and fam. We thought we were closing that gap. we definitely weren't closing that gap.
I got high on that last year. I missed that feeling. I do, man. Winning that playoff game was amazing. And you brought up some good points there about the quarterback situation, because if you bring back Tyrod Taylor, you might need another veteran quarterback on this roster in case. You fully expect a rookie to be there, right? And we hope and we think that we're going to get that super high pick and get that stud. If we get a 3 or 4 pick and we are not comfortable, I don't know what they wind up doing, and they take one later on. Either way, we're going to have a rookie quarterback. I think one way or another, he's going to be there. So you may not want to throw him into the fire. So I think, not Andy Dalton, but an Andy Dalton-esque quarterback.
Andy Dalton ain't too bad either.
You can do worse for a guy just to hold it down, and I feel like reputation is pretty good in terms of helping guys learn and stuff like that. He knows where he is in his career. So a guy like that to help, maybe he could teach Daniel some things too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember like my philosophy in the summertime, right? It was all about going after the bridge quarterback. I had two ways of thinking. I was like, you either bring in Marcus Mariota to come in here and run this offense, just like Daniel Jones did it, except you're not paying $40 million. You're going to be paying about $5 million. Or you go out there and you trade for Justin Fields. And I know Justin Fields had a regression in this year, obviously, right? But I think a lot of his problems deal with the offensive coordinator, and also he has trouble, making decisions down the field and trusting what he's seeing. But entering this season, Justin Fields was going into his 3rd year. You still got a lot of time left on that rookie contract. So you could kind of like use him as a baby bridge, until you find your next guy and still draft a quarterback. And now we're sitting here $92 million guaranteed later, $160 million on the contract, looking at it like, damn, that was my thinking. And in my first little short video I put out, I said, listen, a lot of Giants fans wanted to move on from the quarterback situation and reset the rookie contract clock. And I'm people. But I understand these guys had their best seasons. Saquon Barkley had his 2nd best season as a Giant, his career best. Daniel Jones coming off his best year. It's very difficult to just be like, all right, blow that up. So I understand the position that Joe Schoen and Daniel Jones and the Giants front office just were all in. I just think they approached it wrong. That you had Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield's out there making $3 million, Gardner Minshew making $3 million. There's so many different options that maybe you regressed a pinch at the quarterback position, but it would have saved you like $35 million. So it's unfortunate that, hey, I was playing, Twitter GM and whatnot, but I kind of think I was right on it.
Dude, I mean, it rubbed me the wrong way how the negotiation went. And I'm like, once Daniel Jones is playing his cards, like he played his card fucking perfectly. His agents just had their way with the Giants. And you had Joe Shane, who's up against it with Mara, who wants the deal done regardless. And like, it was just the worst possible situation for a quarterback who's not really worth all that money. And it just played to Daniel Jones' hand perfectly. He won playoff win. He turned into $82 million guaranteed.
The playoff win was huge. Like,
and he looked damn good in that game, too.
He looked so good in that game.
Good.
I always bring this up, though. That Minnesota Vikings defense was extremely fraudulent, ranked 31st against the pass. They also allowed Dak Prescott to have the second highest completion percentage of his career against them. They also allowed Jalen Hurts to break NFL history with his performance before they allowed Daniel Jones to do it. So the NFC East thrived against the Minnesota Vikings all year long. But I don't think as a front office you could look at it the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like a fan who's like, I don't want to go down that road. This team was looking at it like our quarterback is performing well. What does it look like to the fan base, especially if you just take the legs out from underneath the table on them? I think they made the wrong decision, but I don't fault them for making that decision. And I think ultimately it's going to buy Joe Shane and Brian Daboll a little bit more time because now they'll get a true rookie because you weren't going to get one after 2022. Obviously, the Anthony Richardson, C.J. Strouds, Bryce Youngs were all top draft picks. You weren't going to get one of those quarterbacks. And before that, it was Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett. So I think we could have possibly maybe dodged a bullet by making this wrong decision on the Daniel Jones contract. And in the long run, it might work out for us. The kid on the spot 25 says this fan base deserves better. I'm tired of seeing teams in the NFC East getting better and better, but Giants somehow look like JV teams. Scratching my head. Right there with you, man. Super, super unfortunate, man. And we got to just deal with this, man. We got to go through the trenches, deal with this until we improve our own trenches and we get the right person at the quarterback position. And I think if this regime fails after getting their quarterback, then we got to start looking at, calling for people's jobs for sure.
Yep. I would love to see them get their guy, develop him, and return the Giants to glory. I'm ready to get this young playmaker and just let Daboll groom him. But it's going to take time. It's not going to be flip a switch and the Giants are back. This is going to take time. So it's going to be, you just got to improve the team around him while you have that guy getting better. But you have a chance to get the quarterback, you got to get him. I don't care what state the team is in. You have a chance to get that guy, you go get him.
Yeah, I'm definitely right there with you, man. Jefe, I definitely appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you pulling up here, rocking out with me on the Week 10 edition of this Giant Overreaction show, man. Let the people know where they can check out some of your content and what you got going on with the fellas with New York Revival.
Yeah, man, I got New York Revival in the building. Me, Spiro, and Eli. Sports and entertainment. We have fun. We cover the Giants. We talk about the NFL. We have a really good time. If you're interested in Giants comedy sketches, I got that going on too. El Jefe videos on YouTube. Check either of them out. And I am El Jefe on Twitter. Jefe Pill, JEFEPIL. I still call it Twitter too. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how long that'll take, but it's Twitter to me. But you're the man. Thanks for having me, dude. We go back a lot of years, so it's good to connect, and we'll definitely do this again.
Most definitely, man. Definitely appreciate your time. And if you can, drop the links to both your channels in my Twitter. I'll tag them to this video for the people that are going to be rewatching this, man. But cool. Definitely appreciate you, man. Chat, y'all throw some biceps for that man, El Jefe, one time, man. Definitely came up here and did his thing, man. Big salute to El Jefe. Big salute to NY Revival, man. Was definitely a vibe on this show, y'all. We appreciate y'all rocking out with us for 2 whole damn hours, man, talking bad New York Giants football, man. It's unfortunate that we got to deal with this, y'all, but we're going to be here, man. Y'all know how I do. Through thick and thin, I'm going to definitely be showing up, rocking out with y'all on these streams every week, 4 times a week. Tomorrow, y'all can check us out on the recap show that we're going to be doing on the NFC East. The Commanders took that big L to the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to talk about this Giants loss to the Dallas Cowboys again. Philadelphia Eagles were on a bye, so we'll see what they do coming out of that bye. But, man, y'all know what it is, man. We end every podcast the same exact way. Let me make sure the cue is clear on here. Yeah, we good on that. And let me take this. Phone's ringing, got all kind of stuff going on. But y'all know how we end every show, man. Again, I appreciate all y'all pulling up, man. Keep living those dreams. Keep raising that bar, y'all, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Mr. Combat Jack himself. And y'all be good, man. Enjoy this Monday night game. I'm trying to close out a fantasy victory. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, appreciate all of y'all spending y'all Monday afternoon with me, man. 2 hours talking bad New York Giants football. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be good, y'all. Peace.